13 gamer, taking a second lap through it today. Any major changes that you're going to preview for us? Anything looking different than where you were earlier?
Right now, getting less Velasquez than I expected on DraftKings. I'm kind of, while we're talking, trying to figure out why that is, because I have him projected really highly. But that's the first change that really jumped out to me.
Okay. That's an interesting one for sure, given his status. Although, I mean, ownership, I don't know if you've looked at it recently, is really flat at pitching. 2, 4, 6, 8. We have 10 guys from 10% to 24%.
That's basically what happened in my DraftKings crunch. So that makes me feel a little bit better, but it still doesn't explain why my top point per dollar guy is getting out of lineups.
That's probably true too. Let me grab the link to Emacs Spotlight Hitters article. But let's get the plugs out of the way and then dive in, because we do have 13 games to talk about, even though we did talk about this once already today. Deeper Dive is the promo code. 50% off your first month with us. Any monthly package you want to choose, including packages that have Fantasy Cruncher, you can subscribe using that promo code Deeper Dive and get 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus. You can't beat it. We're also brought to you by Yahoo Sports. They are the presenting sponsor of this show. I just dropped the link into YouTube right now. Obviously, Slack knows this article exists. Drop the link into YouTube of Emacs Spotlight Hitters article. It has some information on how to sign up at Yahoo. You could use the promo code AWESEMO when signing up and get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. That'll allow you to get into some of their no management fee contests. They're running a massive no management fee contest for week 1 of the NFL season. I will certainly be filling that one up. Only 10 max entries, though, not 150, so you don't have to go compete with everybody putting 150 in. Everybody's on the same sort of playing field with a 10 max. It lets you put a little bit more love into your lineup, so I'm kind of excited for that. We did this once. You ready to do it again?
Yeah, let's go.
Pirates and Reds. 4.5 run implied total for the Pirates, 4.4 for the Reds. A completely irrelevant Mitch Keller going for the Pirates. Anthony DeSclafani going for the Reds. Let's keep that theme going from earlier. Keller at 8% ownership right now. DeSclafani not getting any ownership. I don't get the sense that I want to go to any DeSclafani here. 4 lefties in the lineup. Frazier, Moran, Bell, and Reynolds. Just they don't strike out to begin with. This seems like a pretty terrible spot for DeSclafani. If you've got any DeSclafani thoughts, go for it. Otherwise, talk to me about Mitch Keller.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a little bit of DeSclafani on DraftKings, but it's a little bit, and it's just because of the salary. It is a tough matchup. Not a lot of strikeouts in the Pirates lineup. They ran out a weird lineup that dropped Adam Frazier to 7th and put Kevin Newman at the top for reasons unknown, but still just not really an appealing spot for DeSclafani. Getting more of Mitch Keller. It's obviously risky because he's making his 6th major league start. He's 23 years old. He's not a finished product, but he does have really good stuff. Has a 95 to 96 mile an hour fastball, has a good curveball that works well with his fastball. And the Reds do have some strikeouts in this lineup. There's no Joey Votto. At the top, you have Galvis with about a 25% strikeout percentage. Suarez is around 16. Aquino's up in there as well. The only hitters in the lineup that have WRC plus above 85 against right-handed pitching since last year are Suarez, Aquino, Van Meter, and Dietrich. So it's not like it's the scariest lineup. The park's okay for pitching, and he's cheap and not getting a ton of ownership. So I'm gonna get some Keller just because of the talent.
Do you think you'll be significantly over that 8% number, or is it just kind of going to be like 12 to 15, something like that?
Probably around double.
Okay. Bats. Pirates are 12th in ownership on FanDuel, 23rd on DK. That 12th isn't super representative. Nobody's really getting much of anything. It's just like a 3% aggregate. Meanwhile, Reds are 11th on FanDuel, 10th on DraftKings. This is cold? You put this? Where did this come from? Oh, nice. What? Thank you. I had the wife bring me a Gatorade. I was expecting a warm lemon lime that was sitting on the floor of the pantry. She handed me a cold orange, which I did not know existed. So shout out to the wife for that one.
I had just taken a sip of ice water, and you're like, "Is this cold?" And I was just like, "How do you know what is in there?"
Yeah, I wasn't ready for it at all. I'm really happy that it's cold. It's going to be way more refreshing than the piss warm one that I was expecting. I don't get the sense that I'm getting to bats in this game. I like Van Meter, I think, a little bit on DK 4,100, but not too much standing out.
Not a lot standing out, but we do right now have both of these teams projected to be a little bit under-owned relative to their top stack percentage on DraftKings. So that does make it somewhat appealing.
Sure.
Keller obviously does have he has good stuff. It's not a great matchup, but he's not he can blow up relatively easily. PNC's played as a favorable park for hitters this year. There's pretty decent values on the Reds. Suarez is 4,500. Van Meter, as you mentioned, is inexpensive. So getting to some Reds, and then any left-handed power from the Pirates I get to, I'm happy with. But it's just kind of tough because Brian Reynolds is priced up, Bell's priced up, Moran's a decent value. Frazier got the huge lineup drop. So it's tough to get to the Pirates.
You mentioned top stack tool and that Pittsburgh is a little bit ahead of their ownership in terms of being the top stack. Cincinnati as well, slightly north of their ownership. You guys can all go check that out. Head to awesomemode.com. The MLB dropdown, you'll find the top stacks tool listed, and it's free today. So if you're curious what we're talking about when we mention the top stacks tool, you can go check it out for yourself. Anybody can use it today. I don't have anything else in Pirates and Reds. You ready to go on?
Yep.
Talk about your boys in Baltimore. 4.5 run implied total for Baltimore. 6 runs for the Rays. Ty Blach and Trevor Richards. Neither pitcher getting a single speck of ownership. Are you on either guy?
No, Ty Blach just doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. Richards, if I had to pick one, would be the guy that I went to, but I just like so many of these mid-range arms more than him. It's a park downgrade going into Baltimore. There are a lot of lefties in the lineup, which he does have a really good changeup, so he can kind of mitigate left-handed power, but the strikeout numbers throughout his career have been a bit better against righties. 24.7% strikeout percentage this year against righties compared to 18.4 against lefties. So I think he just kind of falls behind all of the other guys around them for me.
Yeah, I don't need either of these guys. Let's just get Baltimore out of the way. Will you be grabbing any Baltimore bats here against Richards?
Right now, I'm not getting there. I wouldn't be upset if I got a little bit more, but the top part of the order is pretty expensive. DJ Stewart batting 5th stands out as a good value. That's a couple spots higher in the lineup than he normally hits. Decent hitter, former first-round pick for the Orioles. So I think he stands out.
Yeah, don't mind Stewart there. 2,200 on FanDuel, I think, is a very appealing price tag for him as well. He's $8 on Yahoo, so he's probably my favorite Oriole play just across the board. You know, clearly we think that Trey Mancini is probably the best Oriole, but he's priced accordingly. Got to talk about the Rays, though, now. Number 1 in ownership on FanDuel, number 1 on DraftKings, bringing in quite a bit on Yahoo. On the Yahoo Strategy Show, before we started, Jake and I were running some crunches just to get cash lineups ready and get just generic stack lineups ready. And Jake got like 50% 6-man Rays stacks without any sort of like exposure caps or anything, just randomness and nothing else. I got like 35%, so we had no trouble getting to the Rays. Are you going to be getting to the Rays today?
Kind of surprised in my first crunch on DraftKings that I didn't get tons. I'm sure it's just because of the ownership, because they do project as really good values.
Yeah.
But the lineup that they ran out isn't the most appealing for DFS. Like, you get a really good value play in Matt Duffy at the top, but he's not a particularly good hitter. He's the kind of guy where he'll have a lot of ownership because he's leading off for a team with a 6.2 implied run total. But if he actually puts up a score that you have to have to win a tournament, then we all just got really unlucky. Tommy Pham's expensive. Meadows is expensive. Aguilar is a really good value. Adames is a pretty nice value. So is Brosseau, but you don't have Travis d'Arnaud in the lineup. I don't have a problem rostering Mike Zunino. He obviously has a ton of power, but he's batting 9th, whereas d'Arnaud is normally hitting 4th or 5th. So it's not the most appealing lineup to stack, but still affordable for the most part and a decent matchup against Blach. I mentioned this morning that it's really weird to me how good Blach has been throughout his career at limiting power.
Yeah.
He doesn't strike anyone out, and this park isn't going to do him any favors. So it's not like I'm shying away from Blach, but if you are looking for a reason to get away from Ray's ownership and make yourself feel a little bit better about it, it would be that he's been pretty good throughout his career at not giving up home runs.
Is Guillermo Heredia fast?
He's not very good at hitting, so I feel like he should be fast.
He's got a 109 projected ISO from Steamer, so my guess is that he's not like some hulking dude. It's just really weird to see Mike Zunino hit 9th and Heredia hit 8th. Like I would just move Zunino up a spot, but I don't know. Maybe that's just archaic
He
thinking
has
of lineup
55
construction.
grade speed.
Okay, so I mean, it's got to be faster than Mike Zunino, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Rays bat? For me, it's Aguilar.
Yeah, it's Aguilar. Duffy's probably the best value, but Aguilar's got more power.
Yeah.
And he's still a good value.
And only 14% owned on DK in comparison to Duffy getting 28. I think I'm more likely to get a score that like quote unquote breaks a slate. As much as any one hitter can break a slate, he's probably the guy that can do it more so than Duffy.
I really hope my Rays exposures change between now and lock because it's terrifying how little I have.
How little is little?
3% Aguilar, 5% Duffy, 10% on Brosseau.
That's little.
7 on Zunino.
Yeah, that would scare the hell out of me.
Like 8 on Pham.
It would have worked yesterday.
Yeah.
They weren't that great yesterday. Hopefully that gets people off of them slightly. Ultimately, they are my number 4 stack. I assume I come in near the field. They're just some parts of this stack are such good values that it's really, really easy to get to the full 5. Or on FanDuel, I mean, there are no barriers to getting 4. And as we proved on the Yahoo show, there are no barriers to get 6 either. Alrighty. Indians and Royals. This one's kind of confusing to me, so I'm curious to get your take now. 5.2 run implied total for the Indians, 3.8 for the Royals, 64% chance to win for Cleveland. Zach Plesac and Jacob Junis. No ownership going to Junis. Plesac's at 13% right now. That's we've got Velasquez in the mid-teens, Lyles over 10%, Folty over 10%. That whole little area right now has Plesac in double digits, and I'm not sure I understand why.
I actually thought I was going to get a lot of Plesac today when I wrote the deep dive because we had him projected for low ownership. Kansas City's running out a really, really favorable lineup for strikeouts. We know that the top 4 are good hitters and then it drops off pretty quickly, but it's always a question of who's going to be the bottom 5 hitters in that lineup and what do the strikeout percentages look like. Today they're going O'Hearn, Starling, Valoria, Phillips, Lopez. Lopez doesn't strike out a lot, but Phillips is up around 40%. Starling is about 35%. Valoria is like 27%, and O'Hearn is right around 24%. So you're getting a lot of strikeouts 5 through 8. Soler and Dozier are both mid-20s strikeout guys as well. Really good hitters, but they can still be struck out. 3.8 implied run total and only about 70 degrees in Cleveland. So I think Plesac's a pretty decent option. It's just that if he is going to get ownership, I still have him a little bit behind guys like Velasquez and Fultonevich and Keller.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm coming in. If his ownership is the same as Velasquez and the same as Folty, I don't even want to be near Zach Plesac. I would rather have the guys that I think have legitimate strikeout upside. And while it's a good strikeout matchup for Plesac, it's not like he's a strikeout pitcher. So I don't know really who wins that battle. I think it's more likely that those guys are just beating the ball into the ground or, weak fly ball type guys since they're all garbage at the bottom. This will be a fade for me. I would much rather just double my exposure to Velasquez or Folty if they are all getting the same ownership. Velasquez in particular, who I don't even think is comparable to Plesac today. For $600 more.
Yeah, I agree.
Any Junis?
No. Getting to Cleveland, but not getting to Junis.
Okay. Indians are 5th in ownership on FanDuel and 7th on DraftKings right now. They are my 4th ranked team. I anticipate being north of the field, particularly on DK, where they're only getting 5% of the aggregate ownership. Most of that going to Lindor and Puig. I'll never have a problem getting to more than the field of Lindor, but that just means that the rest of this team, Carlos Santana at 1%, just because his price is $5,400. Franmil Reyes, $3,800 on DK, $2,500 on FanDuel, and $9 on Yahoo. I just want to have Indians.
Yeah, Junis gives up power, and most of the Indians are pretty affordable. Actually, I guess I didn't. I thought when I looked, I was getting more Cleveland than I did. But Ramirez and Lindor both have a lot of power. Puig has power, Reyes has power, and is really cheap on FanDuel and Yahoo. Kipnis has is a decent power option at second base as well. I think that it's a pretty nice spot for Cleveland.
Do you have a favorite Cleveland bat?
Um, Probably Lindor because I don't think shortstop's that strong tonight.
Hard for me to disagree on that one. Will you be getting to any Royals against Plesac?
I think that some one-offs are good. I don't love the full stack because the lineup as a whole is bad. But Dozier and Soler, if you can get there, like they're expensive, but these guys both have ISOs up above 260 against right-handed pitching, and Plesac doesn't miss a ton of bats, will give up some power, so I don't mind them as low on one-offs.
Yeah, that's about where I'll be. Like, I don't see much from a stacking perspective. If Plesac's ownership rises at all in this last hour, I might have to change my tune a little bit, but I'd probably still just stick to some one-offs. I anticipate having quite a bit of the Indians, though. Not mad about that. New York Mets, Atlanta Braves. 4.3 run implied total for the Mets, 3.2 for the Braves. It's Jake DeGrom and Mike Foltynewicz. DeGrom is at 48% ownership on Yahoo. That was north of 50 earlier. He's at 20 on FanDuel, so that has come down. 24 on DK. Do you anticipate getting to DeGrom now at these ownership numbers?
Yeah, I'm really surprised how much I'm actually getting. I had said this morning that I figured on DraftKings that his salary would be around like 15%. Right now I'm at like 30, which I don't love, but at the same time, it is Jacob deGrom, so I'm not upset about it. The Braves, one thing to point out is that this version of the Braves is not as scary as the normal Braves. No Nick Markakis, no Inciarte, no Austin Riley. So you're missing three of the productive bats that they normally have at the bottom of that order. And instead you're getting Matt Joyce, Danny Echeverria, Rafael Ortega, Alex Jackson, and then the pitchers. So if DeGrom can just get through Acuna, Albies, Freeman, Donaldson without getting blown up, he's got some pretty favorable matchups 5 through 9.
Yeah, if he can't handle Echeverria and Alex Jackson and DeGrom, and Folty rather, it was never going to be a good day anyway.
Right.
Speaking of Folty, and I expect to be north of that 24% number. When I did run my dummy crunch earlier today, I was still getting to him. And now if his ownership is even lower, I don't get the sense that's going to change.
Yeah. Alex Jackson also at AAA this year has a 34.8% strikeout percentage. Not many Jacob deGroms at AAA either.
No, not too many. Yeah, that 8-9 spot is going to be pretty tasty for him. Folty, 4% owned on Yahoo, 5 on FanDuel, 12 on DraftKings. I don't love targeting the Mets here, but I think he's not getting enough ownership.
I'm coming in right around there right now. Got like 14% before the show. It's not a matchup that I like. There's just not a ton of strikeouts, especially at the top of this order. Rosario, Panic, Alonso, Conforto, Davis, all below average strikeout matchups, and 4 out of those 5 can hit. But then you get some pretty weak bats in there with Guillermo in the lineup over Frazier. Thomas Nito's in the lineup over Wilson Ramos. That's a huge upgrade for Foltynewicz in terms of strikeouts and productivity. Juan Lagares is around the 23% strikeout percentage. DeGrom has a below average strikeout percentage for a pitcher. He's only at 28.7%. So that's another knock against Folty. But what it really comes down to for me is his salary on the 2 pitcher sites, especially DraftKings at 6,900. In his 3 starts since coming back from his demotion to the minors, he has a 25% strikeout percentage. 2 of those starts were against the Twins and the Dodgers. So it's not like he's had, cake matchups in there. This isn't a great matchup either, but the Mets are running out of watered down lineup. He is inexpensive and he's not super popular. So I'll have some Folty.
Yeah. I only have one guy grading out better than Folty below him. And I don't even really know what to do with no SE. So I'm not like, he doesn't make me confident. Whereas with Folty, I'm just like, okay, I can see the high-end scenario here. Any bats here? Mets don't appear to be getting much ownership. The Braves are completely unowned. I can't imagine wanting to get to Atlanta, and I don't really have much interest in the Mets outside of any one-offs of Conforto. I think are fine.
Yeah, I don't love the Mets here. It would be more appealing if you had Ramos in the lineup. Ramos being out, I haven't double checked this, but I'm pretty sure that's an upgrade for DeGrom also. If I remember right, Ramos is like awful at framing pitches. But anyway,
I believe you're right.
What'd you say?
That sounds familiar to me.
Okay. I'll say I'm going from memory, so if anyone wants to fact check that, go for it. But I just don't love the Mets lineup. Missing Frazier and missing Ramos takes two decent bats out of it. JD Davis is fine. Ford is my favorite option here, and then Pete Alonso, obviously, if you can find the salary, but not a spot that I really love.
Well, he doesn't rank in the top 30 positively, so he is the 12th worst this season.
It is did you see where Nito is?
Actually, that wasn't. Wait, no, that was fine. Let me see. He's not on the ass end. He is 21st overall, but it's basically like 6 or 7 guys on the extremes, and then a pretty concentrated, like generic average core. Nito landing pretty much in the average core.
DeGrom has 10 games with Nito behind the plate this year, 14 with Ramos, 66 innings with Nito, 85 with Ramos. His strikeout to walk ratio with Nito is 6.58 compared to 4.48 with Ramos.
That makes some sense. Yeah, I mean, he's certainly a lot better than Ramos. That's for sure. But it's a lot more of Ramos being bad than Nito being fantastic.
Right.
I don't have anything else here. I think that I'm going to have a lot of pitching exposure. I would guess 65% total on DraftKings between the two. I wouldn't be surprised if I get to like 40 DeGrom.
Yeah, I think I'll be below 65, but still two of my higher owned pitchers.
Okay. Marlins and Phillies. Before we get started here, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. You guys have been great about smashing that like button on these dueling deeper dive live before lock shows. We've been getting north of 300 likes. I see no reason we can't put 400 in the crosshairs. So if you get started early, you don't have to worry about doing it later. Hit that like button now. Plus, it'll make Adam and I look better when Jake and Spags get less than us. 3.9 run implied total for the Marlins, 5 for the Phillies. Hector Noesi going for the Marlins, Vince Velasquez for the Phils. Noesi, no ownership on Yahoo at the minimum, none on FanDuel, 7% on DK. Velasquez, 8, 6, and 14. I think we need to start with Noesi here. If he's at 7% ownership, I have a sneaky suspicion that you and I are slightly north of that.
Yeah, 30% on DraftKings for me right now.
Yeah.
I'm not even that uncomfortable with it. He's not a great pitcher, but he's not bad either. He never really has been. He was in the majors from 2011 to 2015. Had an xFIP just shy of 5, but not terrible. And the strikeout numbers at AAA this year is up over 26% strikeout percentage. Walk percentage was 5.9%, so not a big issue there. Pitching in Miami at 5,200, it's not a great matchup against the Phillies is the only downside, but $25 on Yahoo also. I just think that he's better than a minimum priced pitcher.
I completely agree. And this is not really that good of a Phillies lineup.
I actually haven't seen what the lineup was.
Cesar Hernandez, Hoskins, Real Muto, Dickerson, Segura, Miller, Kingery, Hazley.
Yeah, so no Bryce Harper.
Nope.
Yeah, and there's some strikeouts in there too. You get Miller, you get Hazley.
You would expect. I don't know anything about Harper's health right now, so I'm just throwing this out there. You would think he's eligible to pinch hit later, so that shouldn't affect Noesi. So he's by default getting someone worse. I'm going to be in the 30s here easily, and this is the reason I will have 40% Jake DeGrom.
Right. I think that's why I'm getting to more DeGrom than I expected to, and probably why I'm getting to less of the mid-range guys. And even if you look at projection systems, Steamer has Noesi at 8.7 strikeouts per 9. Other systems on FanGraphs have him between 7.2 and 7.3. Even if you take the low end, that's more than fine for a $5,200 or a $25 pitcher.
Yeah. Steamer has him, if you pull that out to percentage, is 24%, which I'll take it at 5,200. I understand why he's not getting any ownership on Yahoo because of the way that the top end is priced. There's no need to jam in a $25 pitcher, so I can understand that. But Harper out on paternity? There you go. So
Cool.
he's certainly not pinch hitting then either. I didn't know that he was. Yeah, I mean, I guess he's like old now and not 20 years old like he's been in my head for a decade. He's just always perpetually young. Okay, I think that's probably enough on Noesi. Let's talk Vince Velasquez. 14% ownership on DK, single digits on the other two sites. I mean, I don't understand why he's at 14. That seems comically low.
That's like where I'm getting him right now, and I'm not real happy about it. I would like to get more, but I guess it's just kind of a roster construction thing for me. He projects as the best mid-range arm for me. It's obviously a good matchup against Miami. Only two lefties in the lineup in Walker and Diaz. Positive park shift for Velasquez. Plenty of strikeouts because Garrett Cooper's back in the lineup. You also have Alfaro and Brinson. That's three guys that strike out 30 plus percent of the time, plus the pitcher. So I love Velasquez here. I'm hoping I get more than I have right now.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me that it's only 14. This is as good as it gets. And I just want to play more than him. I definitely want to prioritize Velasquez over Folty. But, I mean, I could lap off a lot of my exposure just in DeGrom, Velasquez, and Noesi and not be too upset about it. He's just... I want to get a lot of pitchers when they pitch in Miami against Miami. It's really that easy.
Yep. Especially, I mean, Velasquez has the sixth highest strikeout percentage on the slate, too.
Yeah.
He's
not exactly priced like the sixth highest pitcher either.
Right. The only thing he really struggles with is power, but there's not much of it in this Miami lineup, and the park downplays power. So that all helps, too.
Whoops. Don't know why I minimized that. It's not even on the screen anyway. Nobody can tell that I minimized that. No clue. Any Phillies bats standing out for you? Because I can't imagine we're going to be advocating for many Marlins.
Hoskins, I think, is a really good value. Losing Harper obviously makes the stack a little bit less appealing. But Hoskins is, I think, the best play.
Surprised he's not leading off. But, yeah, I think I agree with you. As long as could be like the Hoskins of old, I guess. Yeah, current Hoskins seems to suck.
Yeah, he does, but
that
also drives down the price. Like, Hoskins would never be $4,200 here.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not changing anything for me. Just much like Chris Davis, tired of taking that beating.
Right.
If it wasn't for like playing 150 lineups, I would love to know like who's been the shittiest in my lineups the most. Although I guess you could kind of do like, weighted averages, but I would love to know who has been like the biggest piece of garbage that I've rostered for 4 months. It's probably Chris Davis. I probably have a shit ton of him every day.
I haven't been getting a lot of him this year.
Oh, really? Must be nice. Can't relate. Okay. We have no Marlins, right?
No, I mean, Diaz was a decent value, but he got dropped to 6th in the order. So that takes some appeal away from him. It looks like I have like 2% of guys like Brian Anderson.
Okay. Astros and Angels, 5.6 runs for the Stros, 3.5 for the Angels. Zach Greinke, Jose Suarez. Greinke, 12% on Yahoo, 7 on FanDuel, 18 on DK, where he is 8,800. I know earlier you weren't all that interested in Zach Greinke. Anything change for you?
Nope. I am getting a ton of pitchers on DraftKings, but I don't see a single Greinke lineup right now. The price tag is obviously fine, but it's just really difficult for me to get there because, for one, he's getting ownership. 2, it's not a great matchup against the Angels. And 3, he's got a strikeout percentage that is like lower than Velasquez and just completely middle of the pack. He's a good pitcher, but on this slate with all the mid-range arms that have upside, whether it's Velasquez or Folty or DeSclafani or Keller, Flaherty for a little bit more, I just can't get the Greinke above those guys.
Yeah, I would just rather give every single share of Greinke straight to Velasquez if I could. Now, that's not to say that like I care if I get any Greinke, but like the Angels are good, at least good enough. 3.5 run implied total for the Angels is a little bit concerning. Makes me think that I'm missing something, but
I mean, Greinke's a really good pitcher.
sure.
Simmons expected to be back in the lineup too, as a low K guy.
That would be interesting. That would make a difference. That would knock him down quite a bit. There's no way we're rostering Suarez, right?
No. Like, he might sneak into a lineup or something, but
yeah. Let's talk Stros. Fourth.
I did find exactly one Greinke lineup.
Okay. I think we can be okay when the ownership is like sub 1%.
Yeah.
Astros are 4th on FanDuel and 6th on DK. But it's concentrated ownership. Like on FanDuel, Springer's at 22, Bregman at 17, everybody else is 10 or single digits, a couple zeros in there. On DK, Springer, Bregman, Chirinos, the only guys that are really getting any ownership. And we know why. I mean, they're incredibly costly, but they're the Astros. I want to make it a priority that I get more 5-man stacks than the field is apparently getting. Are you going to get to Houston?
Doesn't look like it right now. I haven't the last couple of days. It's scary. I hate that I'm not getting there, but right now I'm still not getting a lot of these guys, and it's not a spot that I'm like really confident in. Like, I think they're obviously a good stack. Just the way things are like shaking out for me right now, I'm not really getting there.
I expect to try to like jam them in a bit, and I'm not upset about that because they're the Astros. I don't love the lineup, but Springer, Altuve, Bregman, Gurriel, Michael Brantley unowned because it's lefty-lefty, which is not really bothering me all that much, given the fact that it makes that lineup unique. $5,200 price tag doesn't help, but I would like to go to some Astros, at least in the aggregate. I would like to get more stacks of the Astros than one-offs because it doesn't seem like they're being stacked. It seems like they're being used as one-offs.
Right.
So if I'm going to get it, I'd rather go for the whole Megillah and hope that today's the day. Angels bats against Greinke?
No, I mean, Trout obviously is a good play always, but other than that, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that I'm going to be getting there all that much. I just don't want to target against Greinke. That's not really how it works for him. If I get a little bit of Ohtani, I'm not mad about it. That's about it. Yeah, let's keep going. Twins and Tigers. 6.1 run implied total for Minnesota, 3.4 for the Tigers. That's a 75% chance to win. I believe the high. Yep, highest on the slate, as it should be. Tigers stink. Jose Barrios and Drew Verhagen. Barrios 32% owned on Yahoo, 19 on FanDuel, 14 on DraftKings. I feel like I've said this a lot now. This is just another guy that I think is under-owned, but with Flaherty right there, it kind of makes like a weird duo at the like next to each other. But I would want to take all of that Paxton ownership that exists and either move that up or move that down. I think Barrios is in the best spot of the day, and at 14% ownership, I understand he's not a massive strikeout guy, but I mean, the Tigers are just dreadful.
Yeah, they are. It's a really good spot. DraftKings, I think, is the hardest site to get to Barrios. I'm getting right around the field there, but he's priced up on DraftKings for the matchup. On FanDuel, he's 8,800. I think he's the number one pitcher there.
Yeah.
On Yahoo, he's $47, so he's pretty easy to get to there as well. So I prefer him on those two sites.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Is he really that hard to get to, though? I mean, a Barrios Noesi combination is 15-2.
Yeah, I didn't mean in terms of like actually getting him in my lineup. I meant like I have him projected for less points than Jack Flaherty and Jacob deGrom and Lance Lynn. Okay. And then, I don't have him as good a point per dollar option as, Velasquez or like Fultonevich.
Gotcha. The casualty of the slate.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a different day, I mean, if you told me that if you just swapped out like a couple 1-for-1s of the starters in some of these teams, it wouldn't shock me at all to see Barrios climb to 30 or something like that, because the spot says that it probably could be like that. But yeah, there's just there's a lot of quality harms going today. I will be over that 14% number, and I'm starting to see as we're walking through this the way that I'm going to be concentrating pitching, and I'm pretty cool with it. How much Drew Verhagen do you want?
None. I do want the Twins though.
You and me both. 2% on FanDuel, 2. Ranked second on FanDuel, third on DraftKings. They're about 8 or 9% in the aggregate. On FanDuel, it's 20% to Kepler, 20% to Cruz, everybody else in single digits. DK is split between Kepler, Polanco, and Marwin Gonzalez, largely because Nelson Cruz is 5,800. It's another team that I just want to stack up pretty aggressively. I expect them, or they should, drop bombs on Verhagen. They've been hitting home runs constantly all season. I see no reason why today would be different.
Yeah, I agree. There's a night like Marvin Gonzalez hitting fourth gives you good value too. Multi-position eligibility on DraftKings as well. The salaries on Kepler and Polanco are affordable. The only expensive guy in the lineup is Cruz, and he deserves it. So I really like the Twins.
Can you explain to me why Luis Arias is hitting fifth?
Because he's a really good hitter.
But fifth?
I mean, who do you want to put ahead of him? Adrianza, Castro, Cave?
Sano?
Yeah, like Sano. It probably should be Sano Arias, but
yeah. I don't know. It just stands out pretty aggressively to me, and I want to drag Arias' name down like it's an OOTP, like depth chart. Yeah, that doesn't it's like somebody clicked like the automatic lineup button, but it's just one of those like weird computer quirks. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't all add up.
I mean, he's probably a better hitter than Sano, just not for power.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree with that. God, I mean, Sano is just massive power.
I feel like the bigger question mark is why is Gonzalez hitting cleanup? But
that is an equally valid question to me. That seems like more of a Sano spot. But yeah. Look, at least they kept the lineup relatively balanced, so I don't mind too much. Favorite Twins bet?
Kepler. Simmons is in for the Angels.
Okay. So that should knock Greinke down a little bit too.
Yep.
Well, at least for me.
Yeah, just one more really low strikeout guy.
Yeah. Any Tigers bats? I couldn't even say it.
I'm good.
God, there are
like I love that. I love how Goodrum is actually 4K on DraftKings too. So it's not even like if they had priced him like he was a member of the Tigers, you could at least say, okay, like there's some value here in Goodrum, but they still priced him correctly.
This team is going to look pretty brutal in like 2 weeks, aren't they?
Yeah. As opposed to now.
Actually, will they get better?
They already started calling their guys up, I think.
I don't even know who they are. I'm just trying to think out loud.
I mean, Rogers.
Yeah.
Travis, however you pronounce Demerit or whatever it is.
Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah. Great future for that guy.
Yeah. How much more do they got to pay him? $100 million over the next 5 or something stupid?
Sounds right.
Lucky him. Arias would be Ichiro if this was 20 years ago.
What's that mean?
I have no idea. Like a leadoff slap hitter?
I'm not following the 20 years ago thing because like if Ichiro in his prime played now, he'd still be really, really he'd still be considered good.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not like someone that we overvalued because of the times.
No, not at all. I mean, he got on base like crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand that one. I did love every year when it was the story of like, Ichiro's going to try hitting for power this year. You never seen him hitting PP, but guy could hit bombs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that never happened. And that was like a story for 15 years.
Right, yeah. It was always the year that he was going to start trying.
Yeah, because like everybody playing fantasy baseball would be like, taking Ichiro earlier, man. You get the home runs too.
Right.
No, not the case.
Like I believe he could, but he never did.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a really wholesale change.
Right.
Being like, oh, Shaq's going to start shooting threes this year.
Like, you mean like Andre Drummond?
Yeah, kind of. Well, if you told me that like 23-year-old Shaq was going to start doing it, I'd be like, okay, I could experiment with that. But like 29-year-old Shaq when he looked like a gigantic bus, no, we're good. Put on a couple too many LBs before I expected him to start hoisting threes. Would probably look so tiny in his hand. Like me playing like Pop Shot. I got nothing else. Brewers and Diamondbacks, 5.4 run implied total for the Brew Crew, 4.5 for the D-backs. Dude, we are flying through this slate. Did not need those extra minutes. 59% chance to win for Milwaukee. Jordan Lyles going for the Brewers. Merrill Kelly going for the Diamondbacks. I know you didn't hear this. On the Yahoo show, Alex had a bit of a story. Said that it seems that Merrill Kelly and Mitch Keller have been on a couple comparable slates, and Alex was loading in his cash lineups on Yahoo and accidentally clicked on Merrill Kelly against the Rockies in Colorado instead of Mitch Keller to put into the lineup, and it did not go well for him.
It doesn't sound like a good strategy for cash games.
I remember the game too. It went real poorly for Merrill Kelly, but just like I found, it happens to everybody, guys. Even the number one player in the world. Sometimes you just misclick, don't catch it, and all of a sudden you're playing Merrill Kelly and Coors in a cash lineup.
Proof that he only wins because of the CSVs.
Exactly. If you would have had 149 more lineups in cash, you probably would have cleaned up. Lyles is at 10% ownership on DK. Nothing else really interesting on Yahoo and FanDuel. Do you have interest in Lyles?
Mild interest. I don't like that there's 4 lefties at the top of the order, 5 in the top 6. I don't like that there's not a lot of strikeouts in the lineup. I don't think Lyles is like considerably worse than Fultonevich or Desclafani. He projects pretty similarly for me. So I'm getting him kind of mixed into some lineups, but I really don't like the spot. And if I started getting less Lyles, I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah, I don't anticipate getting any outside of just like a randomness share or two, just because of Fulte sitting there. Keller to an extent, but Fulte's just going to absorb all of that unless it's going up to Velasquez. Ichiro hit 15 bombs in 2005. I wonder if they were all legitimate home runs. Wouldn't shock me.
That was back when Safeco was big too.
I was going to say it wouldn't shock me if like 3 or 4 of those were inside the park, which would change the sort of equation in that one a little bit.
Yeah.
Any Merrill Kelly?
No.
Only on a misclick?
Yeah, only on misclicks.
Probably smart. He's been really bad.
Yeah.
And it's probably not the best spot to be bad, this Brewers team. They are 6th in ownership on FanDuel and 5th on DraftKings. They are my number 2 rank stack. I want to get a lot of the Brewers here against Merrill Kelly, particularly the lefties.
Yeah, I agree. Not a lot of strikeouts. Park downgrade for him going into Miller Park. The weather looks pretty conducive to pitching, so that's not ideal. But 5.5 implied run total for Milwaukee. Solid value on Grandal. Did they send Grisham back to the minor leagues, or is he just like not playing?
Isn't he leading off?
No, Kane is.
Dude, did I just not refresh this?
Unless I'm like looking at the wrong day.
No, I see Kane now too. I refreshed that lineup before we started the show. Whatever. Let me fix this quickly. I guess I don't know what happened, but yeah, Kane is leading off. Kane, Grandal, Yelich, Hera, Moustakos, Ryan Braun, Thames, Arcia. Just give me the holistic thoughts on the Brew Crew, I guess. I mean,
not having Grisham makes them a worse value lineup because you just lost one of the better value plays on the slate. But Grandal's still a top catcher. Moustakas is a top second baseman. But then you also get, I don't even want to say overpriced, but a very, very, very expensive Christian Yelich and Keston Hiura, which should keep their ownership down and keep the full stack ownership down. So I think that it's going to be pretty easy to get a low-owned Milwaukee stack that also has the best hitters.
Yeah, I would imagine that the ranking that we have for their ownership is going to tumble now that Grisham isn't hitting leadoff. So that will be a major benefit to me because it's not really changing anything that I want to do. Do you have a favorite Brewers bat?
Grandal.
Any Diamondbacks bats for you?
Not really. We talked about it this morning that it's not a bad spot for Jake Lamb or David Peralta, but I just have other guys that I'm prioritizing at their respective positions, and then Marte and Escobar are just really expensive.
Breaking news in the NBA. Do you want it?
Yeah.
The Lakers signed their center.
Dwight Howard?
Yep. They're going to be ass. That's terrible.
Good joke.
Oh, even better. I didn't even mean it. I should have just played it off like I did. Why would you do, what are they thinking? We've got time.
I don't know.
How many more teams does this dude need to submarine? Nobody likes him. Like every team just fires bombs at this dude when he leaves. He's just an asshole.
Yeah, but he's going to change. He said so.
It's going to be like when I leave Osimo. That dude is a dick. Hell of a fit. Really excited to see that LeBron at the 3, Kyle Kuzma at the 2, AD, Dwight Howard for them.
Good thing they don't have Zubats.
Unbelievable, man. What? He just got at least get a stretch 4 or a stretch 5 so AD can still just be him. Oh my god. LeBron is a real shit GM. How much candy are they going to have to give Dwight Howard now? I don't think I have anything else. I do hate that I didn't notice that I made the butt joke, though. That's just...
I finally get one of your jokes and think it's funny and it was unintentional.
Seems fitting, right? 15-10 and 3 blocks off. Howard fits them good, in my opinion. This can't be real. Dwight Howard hasn't fit a team in 5 years.
Right. Yeah, I'll say it's not even a real knock that he doesn't fit the players on the Lakers. He doesn't fit the NBA.
No. But he really doesn't fit the Lakers. Look, anytime that you could play AD not at the 5 and make sure that you get Dwight Howard in there clogging up everything, every single piece of space for AD to roll to the rim and hammer on someone, that's the way to do it.
Doesn't AD hate playing the 5?
So he claims. I'd tell him to just, eat shit and do it.
Well, and either way, even if you want to appease him, you can do so without putting an actual center in.
Yeah. Look, I get it. If he doesn't want to play the 5 all that much during the regular season, man, do whatever you need to do. But rest assured, you're not playing a single second at the 4 in the damn postseason. LeBron is the 4. AD is the 5 in the playoffs, and that is the only option. And then you're still playing Kyle Kuzma at the 3 out of position. So have fun with that. I mean, Kuzma was like the 5 half the time last year because they were so thin. Oh, God, yeah. I can't wait. Oh, it's 2 more months, man. 2 more months. Meanwhile, let's talk about the White Sox and the Rangers. 4-run implied total for the White Sox. 4.6 for the Rangers. Dylan Cease. Lance Lynn. Cease is getting no ownership. Has anything changed for you?
Nope. Not getting there on DraftKings. I think he's more viable on Yahoo at 30 if you need to go cheap, or on FanDuel at 6,400. Like, he's got good stuff. This is one of the better matchups that he's had since being called up, but still, in the context of the slate, it's pretty tough to get there.
All right, YouTube chat still going on Howard. You act like the dude can't play anymore. Can't. He'll be a great veteran off the bench for the veteran minimum. He won't. He's not a great veteran. He wouldn't get hemorrhaged from team after team after team if he was such a great veteran. How is Tyson Chandler any better than Dwight at this point? Because people like Tyson Chandler. It's really simple. It's way easier to do your job when you don't hate one of the dudes on the floor with you. Lance Lynn, 26% ownership on Yahoo, 14 on FanDuel, 24 on DK. I expected Lance Lynn to be like my dude today, and now that I realize I have the salary to get to DeGrom, it's changing a bit. They are at the exact same ownership on DK. DeGrom at 24, Lance Lynn at 24. Who do you want more of?
I'm getting more of DeGrom.
Okay. Who do you want more of?
DeGrom.
Okay. That kind of is 2 different answers.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, DeGrom. He's just Lance Lynn's really good. Jacob DeGrom's better. They're I have DeGrom projected higher. On DraftKings, I have DeGrom like 2.5 points higher than Lynn. Same ownership, not a huge difference as far as what I can get into my lineups around them. So I'm going to get more DeGrom.
No, there's not even a good picture to make this comparison. I was going to say, what do we like more, Lance Lynn plus X or no SE plus DeGrom? But $800 more than no SE is Trent Thornton, and we're both going to say DeGrom no SE in that scenario.
Right. Yeah, which is kind of my point. Like, it's the most likely pairing for me is going to be either DeGrom no SE or Lynn no SE.
Yeah.
It's not changing a whole lot as far as my lineup goes.
Agreed. Okay, so since they're both at 24, do you think that anything changes in their ownership dramatically? Do you expect one guy to take the lead in any sort of significant way?
I expect DeGrom to go up and Lynn to come down.
So do I. Will that change anything for you?
Probably not too much. I already don't factor pitcher ownership in quite as much as hitter ownership, and I have a big enough gap between DeGrom and Lynn in their projections that I don't think it'll change a lot.
I actually have an answer for someone in YouTube chat about baseball. He said Pirates released Cervelli. I'm wondering where this guy has been. He has been out nursing symptoms of the 600th concussion he's ever had.
Yeah, said he wasn't going to catch anymore, then said he would catch more, but
yeah, he's trying to get on with a team with some playoff aspirations, so they let him go. But yeah, he has had his bell rung a couple times, so look out, CTE. White Sox bats against Lynn. Can't imagine we're doing that one with any sort of regularity.
No thanks. John
Jay at 8% at 2,300. There's 8% of the people paying the rake today.
Yeah, that's a little more John Jay than I would like.
Rangers, though, against Dylan Cease. 8th in ownership on FanDuel, 9th on DraftKings. I guess it's right for the slate. I feel like I want to get more Texas.
I don't really like it. I'm not getting that much. I just think Cease has pretty good stuff, and Texas is A, expensive, and B, bad. So it's just tough. I mean, you look at the lineup, and I would like Danny Santana, but he's $5,500. Yeah. He's $400 less expensive than Christian Yelich is. That's a tough sell. Willie Calhoun's $4,800. Pence is $5,400. Chu is $4,700. I don't want Forsythe, DeShields, Mathis, so that cuts a third of the lineup out that I'm interested in at all. Odor, I think, is a pretty good second base option, but I just don't really like Texas.
Yeah, I think when I said that, I probably am looking more in towards of one-offs, two-mans, maybe three-mans, because of Chu and Odor being at pretty reasonable prices. Chu for 14 on Yahoo, Chu for 14 on Yahoo, 9 for Elvis Andrus, both reasonable price tags. Both guys getting around 20% ownership too, so some viable cash plays. I think Andrus made our cash lineup. I can't remember if Chu did or not. I do want to have a little bit just because Cease has an incredible ability to put additional base runners on, and there's at least a couple guys that can yank one out of here in Chicago, and doesn't feel like the type of day where we're going to see a lot of solo homers for the Rangers. When they come, I think they're going to come with some guys on. So that's probably it. Anything else you want to touch on in this one?
Just looking at the White Sox lineup. 1, 2. So they have 5 lefties in there, but 3 in the top 6. Lynn strikes out about 20% of lefties compared to 34% of righties. He's good at getting outs against both sides, but you do prefer there to be more righties. I do like, though, that 3 of the best hitters on the White Sox are right-handed in Anderson, Abreu, McCann. The only above-average lefty they have is Moncada.
Yeah, I think he's willing to take his chances against Matt Skoll and Adam Engel.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said Adam Engel. Yolmer Sanchez, rather. Alrighty. Cardinals. We got 4 to go. Cardinals and Rockies. 4.9 run implied total for the Cards. 3.1 from the Rockies. 70% chance to win for the Cardinals. Jack Flaherty versus Peter Lambert. Flaherty 38% owned on Yahoo, 9 on FanDuel, 20 on DK. You going north of 20 for Flaherty?
Yeah, right now I have 22. I think that might go up a little bit before lock, but a pretty watered down Rockies lineup here too. No Trevor Story. You have 4 lefties in the top 6, 5 total in the lineup. That's not ideal for Flaherty because he has better strikeout stuff against righties than lefties, but he has started throwing his slider more to left-handed hitters. Since June 25th, he has a 24% usage rate on his slider to lefties. Prior to that, it was like 16%, and that's a pitch with a 26% swinging strike percentage. So his strikeout percentage has jumped from like 20% against lefties to 25.5 since he started throwing the slider more. Overall, his strikeout percentage since then is like 30.5%. So no Story in the lineup. Blackman and Murphy and Arenado are tough outs, but Arenado is right-handed, so that's not a huge concern. But then you get to some pretty high strikeout guys. Ryan McMahon at 29.4%, Hampson's at 33.3%, Daza 24.2%. Dom Nunez projects for like a 24 to 25% strikeout percentage. So once you get past Daniel Murphy, he should be able to just rack up strikeouts.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I get the sense that I will have a decent amount. I think that I'm going to have quite a bit more Barrios, though. Less ownership, and I just haven't projected higher. But that is not an... They're basically flip-flop for me, the way that we explained it earlier for you. Just casualty of the slate. He looks really good. He happens to be a couple spots too low. On a different day, I'd probably have him a ton. When you said usage rate there, I was like, oh, that basketball talk got you, huh? I was like, usage rate? What is he talking about? Clearly, then I understood. How much Lambert?
I'm glad you're following along.
Yeah. Hey, I'm better than Laffy.
You heard what I said.
Yeah. I knew the words that came out of your mouth. I'm paying attention. No Lambert, right?
Like 5%.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's outside of Coors. He's 4,500 on DraftKings.
I'm just surprised that you got to it, not necessarily that you are getting to him. I mean, at 4,500, we obviously take some concessions.
Yeah.
Cardinals bats against Lambert?
Yes.
Goldschmidt, Ozuna, Fowler. I'll do a little Colton Wong. As long as he's hitting second, that's fine by me. Bottom of the order, not really all that appealing, but I like those first 5. Yeah, first 6, you can include Molina, I guess.
Yeah, Cardinals are pretty appealing here. 5 implied run total is not the greatest, only 75 degrees in St. Louis, but pretty decent pricing. Goldschmidt, I think, is a really good first base option. Ozuna's got a lot of power. DeYoung's one of my preferred shortstop options. So, yeah, I'm getting the Cardinals, especially Goldschmidt.
I'll have them as one-offs. Doesn't seem like a place I'll get to stack, which feels like a thing where I'll look at my phone at 9 o'clock, see the Cardinals with 9 runs off of Lambert, and be like, "Oh shit, I'm dead." But yeah, I like those first 5. I like Molina enough if I'm stacking them up to want to have them, but I don't need him just in general. Rockies bats, Charlie Blackmon, I guess. Daniel Murphy for 3,800 too.
Yeah, they're both fine. I'm not really getting to them, though.
Yeah, I'm not trying to target against Jack Flaherty. In a vacuum, like those are guys that I would expect to pop up as generic one-offs just because of the matchup. All right, 3 more to go. That Dwight Howard detour filled up just enough time. Padres and Red Sox. I can't imagine we're going to have much to talk about here. We didn't earlier. Chris Paddock, Eduardo Rodriguez. It's like a coin flip game with an 8-run implied total. No ownership going to Paddock. Erod getting to 8% right now. I mean, I get the appeal of getting to a little bit of Erod because of the strikeout rate for the Pods, but they lean so heavily to the right-hand side that I just really don't want pitching.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. It wouldn't be surprising to see a good game from Rodriguez. It's just really tough for me to get there because I think that he's priced exactly where he should be, whereas Velasquez is underpriced, Flaherty's underpriced. Fultonevich is probably a little underpriced. So there's a lot of underpriced hitters. And then at the top, there are guys that are just going to project better in terms of raw points, like DeGrom. So it just kind of leaves Rodriguez in a weird spot.
Yeah, I'm good on those guys. And I don't get the sense that I'm going to get much of either side of this game from an offense perspective. Any bats standing out to you now?
No, I don't think so. Rodriguez, pretty decent pitcher. Machado is still too cheap and has multi-position eligibility on DraftKings, which is nice. Renfro's got a ton of power, so I like those two. But outside of that, I don't really like this game all that much.
No. This would be a really nice Franmil Reyes day if he were still there.
Yeah, but it's a good Franmil Reyes day in Cleveland instead.
Sure. I don't. This is just not a spot for me. So I'm sure it's the game that goes crazy. 2 more games to go. Once again, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, but definitely hit the like button now so that we can get all of those likes before lock starts, which happens immediately after this. Same stream. You don't have to go anywhere. Just hang out for a little bit. Listen to my beats. They're not actually my beats, but I picked them. And you can look at the little commercial screen that lets you know that the Top Stacks tool is free today. And if you go to the @Awesemo_com Twitter handle, you can get more information. Dodgers and Yankees. 4.5 run implied total for the Dodgers. 3.9 for the Yanks. Ryu, James Paxton. Ryu getting no real love. 9% on Yahoo. Very low everywhere else. Paxton 11 on Yahoo. 12 on DK. 4% on FanDuel. Do you want either guy?
No, not particularly. On some slates, I could make an argument for Paxton because he has the second highest strikeout percentage and he's 9K on DraftKings. So he's discounted for what, for the most part, I think has been bad luck this year. But it's a tough matchup against the Dodgers. He is getting ownership. It's not like you're getting him at 3% or something like that. And I would just still rather pay a little bit more for guys that I project a lot better or pay less for guys that I think are better point per dollar options.
Yeah, I can't imagine wanting to get to Paxton here. That's just more ownership that I hope goes to Flaherty in lieu of going to Berrios. But I would love to take the, 38% ownership to Erod, Paxton, and Greinke and redistribute that to Flaherty, Berrios, Lynn, and DeGrom, and just have more of those guys. I mean, one of those 3 are probably going to be solid. Usable, not regrettable, but I'm good. Josh sounds like Jim from The Office. I wish I looked like Jim from The Office. Jim from The Office now, not Jim from The Office while he was in The Office, because that dude is yoked now. Not so yoked now. Now I look like Jim in The Office. Doughy and shit. Dodgers bats, Yankees bats. Do we get to anything here? I feel like, I don't know, Justin Turner is probably pretty interesting. The new Will Smith.
I was getting to Dodgers earlier. Now, still getting to Dodgers, not really getting to Yankees. Dodgers, I think, just because they are not getting much ownership and they're really talented. In the Top Stack tool, we have them projected basically to be owned where they should, but maybe a little bit owned. So mostly interested in the Dodgers from this game.
Any of this overwhelming righty power for the Yankees against Ryu?
Not really. The salaries are nice on Judge and Sanchez, but I just have a ton of respect for Ryu.
Yeah, same. If Judge is at 14% ownership on DK, this feels like a scary spot, but it's not like I want to bet against his power.
Right. He's a good value, but I just think that you're not really getting an edge by rostering him at that ownership against Ryu.
Right.
If he were 2% owned or something, sure.
Yeah. All right, let's close it out. Mariners and Blue Jays, coin flip game, 9.5 run implied total. Justice Sheffield for the Mariners, Trent Thornton for the Jays. No ownership going to either guy. Earlier today, I expected to get to a little bit more Thornton. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think that I'm going to have either pitcher today. Do you?
Yeah, I'll have them sprinkled in a little bit, but nothing overwhelming. More interested in the bats, especially from Toronto.
Yeah.
But they're really good values, but we have them projected to be much higher owned than their chance of being the top scoring stack on the slate. So that makes them a little bit less appealing in tournaments. But in cash games, I think you definitely are looking to guys like Guerrero, Bichette, Grichuk, Hernandez as really good values.
Yeah, they've got 5 guys in the heart of their order, north of 10%. Bichette in the leadoff spot at 9. Now, I haven't pulled new ownership, so if we've had anything in the hour that we've been on, that could even go up. I will certainly have Blue Jays. I can't get away from it here with Sheffield coming up. I don't get the sense that I'll get a ton just because I think they're going to be a hair over-owned. Do you have a favorite Jays bat?
Guerrero.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I just agree.
Oh, I thought you said no.
Yeah, I did burp too.
Ah.
So if that sounded like a no, I'm with you. It's Guerrero for me as well. Although Bichette's just a little pricey, but the leadoff spot helps for a shortstop.
Yeah, Bichette right now is my second highest owned shortstop, so
Okay.
I don't disagree.
Mariners bats against Thornton. That's a sea of lefties.
Yeah, it is. Kind of appealing, but I'm not really getting there. Just not a great park for hitting. Seager's price tag got jacked way up because he started hitting home runs as soon as Tim Beckham got suspended, basically. So
He took all the leftover steroids.
That's my theory.
Yo, man, I still got 50 days worth. Yeah, whatever, man. Just put that shit in my locker.
Yeah, so that's the theory I'm working with, but he's priced accordingly now. So yeah, I mean, it's a decent spot for Seattle. Thornton does struggle more with lefties than righties, but I don't think he's a terrible pitcher. It's not a great park to hit in, so I'm not really getting there.
Well, I would assume that Trent Thornton would struggle way more with major league lefties than the sea of AAA lefties that they seem to be running out here.
Also a good point, yeah.
D. Gordon got popped too for roids, right?
Yep. He was one of those like really, really surprising ones.
Yeah. There you go, Mariners. Meanwhile, Dan Vogelbach's just eating cheeseburger after cheeseburger. It's like steroids. Give me a double-double. All right. Top stacks.
You go first because I just accidentally closed that page.
Okay, well, my information is more important than his anyway. So, Brewers, Twins, Indians. Those are the three that I would like to get the most of.
Looks like I'm getting a lot of Twins. Right now, a good amount of Dodgers, which, again, like I'm not confident in it, but I never mind playing the Dodgers if other people aren't. Twins are my favorite, though.
Top pitchers, go.
Noesi.
Leading with Noesi, huh? Are you just going in order of your exposures? Okay, yeah. I was like, whew, that one's gonna be fun for people.
Yeah, Noesi, DeGrom, Velasquez, Flaherty.
D. Gordon taking steroids for no reason. Dude has no power.
I think
not really the reason you're taking steroids.
Yeah, injury prevention.
Yeah, and to feel like a fucking man on a day-to-day basis. Give me a shot of testosterone in the ass. I feel like I'm gonna be like feeling okay, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I can bench 10 more pounds. I'm just gonna feel like more of a man. I assume my testosterone levels are 0 because of this. Anyway, that's it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Live Before Lock coming up immediately after this. Jake Hari, Chris Spags. Tomorrow, you in the morning?
No, Jake.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Tomorrow morning, Jake and Emac. Tomorrow night, I guess probably still Jake and Emac, although he might have switched with Chris. It doesn't really matter. We'll have a show in the morning and the show at night. I will have soccer projections updated at just after 9 a.m. for the 10 a.m. set of games. Projections are already posted, so if you're looking for any soccer content, it is already on the site. If anybody sees Dustin Johnson, tell him I'm not a huge fan of his this week because he stinks again, and that's not fun for me. Did you play any golf?
No.
Okay, well, congrats, because that means you don't have DJ.
Correct.
Needs to go back to drugs and other women because whatever he's doing right now doesn't seem to be working. So if you're listening, DJ, after your garbage round again today, after a garbage round yesterday and 4 garbage rounds last week, pick up your bad habits, man. You stink now. That's all I've got. Stick around, everybody. Live Before Lock coming up next. Have fun. You are live.
All right, what's up, guys? We should be starting up now. Welcome to the Awesemo.com Live Before Lock Show. We'll be taking you through the day's lucky 13-game slate, of course. I'm Chris Spags, joined by my good pal, the baseball savant, the snack himself, Mr. Jake Hari. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm doing well, man. It's Friday, so what's there to complain about? I mean, we got a big MLB slate. We've only got a few more of these, at least me and you, when football starts. So only a few more of the huge slates to go through. And we've got other sports approaching pretty quick. So I'm kind of savoring these last few days, few weeks, I should say, of MLB.
The last few weeks of summer, the last few weeks of MLB, and I cherish our time together, Jake. But you're right, I forgot that because last year we just didn't do a show together for 7 months. You went to your NHL world, I went to my NBA and NFL worlds. But we got to cherish these moments. And you know what else we need to cherish, Jake? We need to cherish the fact that there is a place with rake-free daily fantasy sports, and that is at FantasyDraft.com. You are, of course, our presenting sponsor here on Live Before Lock. My dog so willingly goes to the water bowl the second I'm doing a show. But hey, FantasyDraft.com is the official home of rake-free daily fantasy sports, and now you can play your favorite contests rake-free here on Fantasy Draft, where 100% of the entry fees are paid to the contest winners. For a limited time, Fantasy Draft is offering a free 7-day trial on your first $1,000 in rake-free entries. So right now, go to FantasyDraft.com. Use the promo code AWESEMO for your 7-day trial, that first $1,000 in rake-free entries. And Jake, real fast, tell the people about the joys of playing rake-free DFS.
Yeah, you're not going to find better than rake-free DFS, and Fantasy Draft is a great place to do it. I always like to talk about how they have they show you how much you're saving, actually. So I think once the slate locks and once the slate finalizes, you can actually see how much money you're saving compared to other sites where you're paying 15, 16% rake on a lot of these big tournaments that we always talk about. So I don't know if I've mentioned it to you guys, but I'm pretty pumped for these football tournaments. I'm looking at the $4. There's the $1 in there, and all rake free or very, very little rake. You pay a flat rate for the month. I think it's a pretty awesome deal that Fantasy Draft has going on.
Yeah, it's a great deal over there. So go right now, FantasyDraft.com, and use that promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for your first $1,000 in rake-free entries. All right, Jake, let's talk about the slate here because this is an interesting slate where we do have some top quality pitching, but also the ownership is pretty flat for the pitchers overall. Nobody going to get a ton, it looks like. So let's talk about the guy who I'm under the field on right now, which didn't really happen willingly, but it just, I guess, happened with the way that I built my lineups. Lance Lynn, he is now currently tied to be the same ownership with Jacob deGrom, according to our ownership projections at Awesemo.com, which you can get, it's not free today. You can get it with the promo code Live Before Lock for half off your first month of Awesemo Plus. And I'm not getting the Lynn at all. I am getting deGrom, and even that I got to less than I thought I would. I guess I think I'm just paying for more bats today, especially because I have a lot of Houston, which we'll talk about in the second half of the show. So how are you feeling about Lance Lynn, and how do you feel about him vis-a-vis Jacob deGrom? Who would you prefer out of the two?
Yeah, prefer deGrom. I mean, it's pretty close between the two, and it obviously pricing is a thing, so it's going to vary across the sites. Looking at what I have right now on DraftKings, actually not getting a ton of either guy, but I am getting more deGrom than Lynn. So he's essentially I'm passing on Lynn tonight on DraftKings. I'm going to try to pull up my FanDuel crunches here and get those started. I think we're almost to a spot where we can start. We've only got one lineup left, so that's pretty nice. But I would imagine I have some Lynn over on FanDuel as well. I prefer deGrom basically on every site, but not really getting to Lynn at all on DraftKings. What about you?
Yeah, so I didn't get to him at all. I got to deGrom a little bit, and that's just because I wanted to make sure to get some of him there. I'm with the field on deGrom. That feels about right. And I think there's one guy who is really pushing me towards or away from these guys, is that Vince Velasquez projects pretty well for us, the Awesemo projections, at least relative to value. And when you adjust for randomness as well, he's coming up a lot for me. And I feel fairly confident about him too, just looking at him on a data level. Like I feel like the strikeout match is pretty good overall for him. And he's been a pretty decent strikeout pitcher on the year with a 25% K rate. So I'm comfortable going to Vince Velasquez. I guess the team total has come up for Miami throughout the day, I believe. I think it was at high threes before. Now it's at 4 flat, according to where I'm pulling them from. So yeah, I'm getting to Vince Velasquez a ton, and that's why I'm not getting to these guys. But I guess who are you getting to if you're not getting to deGrom or Lynn?
Yeah, I like to call him Velasquez. I think he's a guy who warrants a little bit of conversation. The guy I'm getting to when I'm not getting to like the top tier guys like DeGrom and Lynn. It's so weird to be calling Lance Lynn a top tier guy, but he really has been awesome this year. I just haven't really gotten over how much better he's been this season. But the guy I'm getting to quite a bit is Jose Barrios at 10K on DraftKings. Just a matchup thing. I've talked about how he's been pretty disappointing as far as just strikeout numbers go, based on what he was when he started to kind of figure it out in the MLB. Like, his K rate isn't fantastic, but the matchup could not be any better. This active roster for Detroit is so bad. He's also getting 6 righties in the lineup, a bunch of them stacked up at the bottom of this order. It's a fringe major league roster he's facing here. Massive total. Win equity is as big for Barrios as it is for anyone on the slate. And I just like the $1,300 that he saves compared to DeGrom is a really big deal to me tonight. So no problem dropping down to Barrios.
Yeah, so like I don't mind Barrios, and I guess the projections would give you a good amount of him. Also, just to be clear, because I did make a mistake here, I didn't update my ownership projections. I think I got too distracted jamming out to Josh's sick beats between the shows. So I didn't get the most recent ownership up there. But according to the ownership now, we now have a little bit of a gap between some of these guys. Lance Lynn is now half the ownership of Jacob deGrom on DK. And in fact, there's one guy who we'll talk about who is also pretty highly owned by me in pairings with Vince Velasquez, who is apparently very chalky now too. But yeah, Barrios I would think he's in a safe spot. I mean, we have seen Detroit here the last few days. I think the issue with me is you compare Barrios to the guys we just had versus Detroit. You have Verlander and Cole. Those guys have really good strikeout ability. Barrios is a little bit under league average with a 22.7% carry rate this year. And even though Detroit will give you some free strikeouts, and he certainly has done a good job mitigating damage overall and has that low 3.2 implied run total, I just feel like Barrios, like when you compare the price on FanDuel, he's so cheap. I don't know, like it's not easy for me to pay $10K for him when I can get to pitchers I feel comfortable with. I could save $600 and go into Jack Flaherty. So I'm not getting to as much Barrios on DK, but where are you relative to the field on him? Because he looks like he's 15% owned right now.
Yeah, so if he sticks in that 15% ownership, I think this is going to be pretty accurate to where everything ends. Sometimes we've seen these shifts late on some guys, and so it's good to see. I think Lynn came down. Did his ownership get cut in half? Is that what you said? Because he was at 24 before.
Yeah, he's at 12 now, apparently. On DK.
Yeah. Okay. So that's going to make it much more likely that I get to at least some Lynn. And I just refiltered and I actually got to a few shares of him out of 150. So better than nothing. But if Barrios sticks in the teens, I think he probably is going to be my highest exposed pitcher. In the 30-ish% range. Right now I'm at 33.3, 50 lineups out of 150 on DraftKings. I'm pretty comfortable with that. I wouldn't mind getting more of Barrios, but I just know, I always talk about how outside of last night, I hate just locking myself into one lineup construction. And with a 10K plus pitcher, you are limiting yourself with options, and there's not like a slam dunk value pitcher I see. So my pitching exposures, like what we have in the ownership, are going to be pretty flat tonight.
Yeah, I agree. There isn't really a cheap pitcher who jumps out as value. And I mean, there's some guys I think you can talk yourself into, but nobody at that, the Adrian Hausers that we've had in recent days and that kind of tier. And certainly no Ross Detweilers who just went wild yesterday. He had like 8 strikeouts at no ownership. That was fun.
Yeah. How did you do last night? We never talk about that really on air, at least.
Yeah, I did actually pretty well. So one of my lineups that broke out was a Detweiler lineup with Cole, and so I had enough of him. Thankfully, I guess I didn't have Woj because he was terrible. But yeah, it was fine. Like I just had a lot of Rays stacks that didn't quite do enough. Where you had like Meadows and I think it was Adames who went off. Everybody else just kind of sucked. So like I was fine, but nothing broke out enough because those Rays stacks were kind of terrible.
Yeah, I didn't have anything great. I think I profited a little bit. I won a bunch of Thursday night millionaire maker tournament tickets on DraftKings for the showdown slate or whatever. So I think I technically profited. And then on FanDuel, I had actually some decent lineups as well, but nothing big. Just had a ton of lineups that cashed, it seemed like. So had Detweiler. Brault ended up being okay. I can't remember who the other guy was, but
Alcantara was pretty big, but I had none of him.
Oh, I didn't have any of him, but like my hitting was okay as well. So yeah, just, Detweiler just kind of ruined everything. You kind of need a 5K pitcher that scores 30 points, I hear.
Yeah, it was a tough slate for that because that was, I mean, it wasn't totally unexpected because his numbers were almost so bad where it's like this guy can't be this bad to continue to be a major league pitcher. But it sucked because I had a lot of Texas and despite that, it still did fine on the day because you really just needed like a couple of hitters over like 20 points yesterday to kind of get to the cash line. But yeah, it was not the greatest slate to have a bunch of Texas, and Elvis Andrus, the only guy doing anything against Detweiler, was a bit of a kick in the nards, one could say. But let's keep it moving on to pitchers here. So let's talk about Jack Flaherty because he's now going to be the top owned pitcher on DK. He's also going to have some good ownership on other sites as well, and he's been really good on the year, going against the Colorado team, who is not necessarily the best in the world against right-handed pitching, but also not offering up a ton of strikeouts. The team total, though, has come down. It's now 3 implied runs. I think earlier in the day, at least when I did the Four Corners video, the short form video I do here on the channel, it was at 3.3 implied runs. So that's a pretty big drop. And I'm getting a good amount of Flaherty. He projects well. He projects, actually, I believe, slightly better than Barrios, according to our projections at Osmo.com. So how are you feeling about Flaherty here, given that he's cheaper and he also is projecting slightly better than your boy, Jose Barrios?
Yeah, just slightly better than Barrios right now. He's right up there for me too. But right now, his ownership has come way up. He's actually right now the highest owned pitcher on the slate, at least on DraftKings. Other sites, looking like FanDuel, it's pretty spread out there. So I don't think you need to worry about it. You don't even really need to worry about it on DraftKings. I'm not that concerned about a 30% owned pitcher, even if he gets up to there. I don't know. I like Flaherty. I think he's perfectly fine here. Really low implied total for Colorado. So that's telling as far as what Vegas thinks of Colorado. That's one of the lower totals I've seen for like a non-Detroit Baltimore team this season. 3.5 implied total here for Colorado on Alex's totals, and not super humid in St. Louis. It's only 75 degrees, a little bit of wind blowing in as well. So pretty favorable conditions for a park that in the summer, like in months of July and August, oftentimes plays better to hitters, especially when it's humid. So a lot of good things to like here about Flaherty. Ownership, not perfect, but we kind of know like all these pitchers get figured out as far as who the best plays are. And I think he kind of deserves to be one of the highest exposed pitchers tonight.
I mean, the one thing with him is that Colorado Rockies lineup, even though they're not good on, I would say overall, still just a 23.1% aggregate K rate in their lineup today. So that's not the highest strikeout rate, but Flaherty stuff has been really good at a 28% K rate on the year, only giving up a 3.9 xFIP and a 1.1 whip, also a reasonable 8% barrel ball rate. As Jake mentioned, the conditions there, I mean, it is a pitching-friendly park, but it's not hot and humid. It is not hot and humid there today. So, yeah, I'm with Flaherty. I'm above the field on him by a pretty decent chunk. And I don't love being that high on a guy who's also that chalky, but from a projection basis, he just looks good. And I think his stuff, he's a guy to trust. I feel like he and Sonny Gray are the two guys this year who I think I wouldn't have wanted to play a ton of last year, who this year I'm like, I just like these guys on pretty much every slate.
Yeah. Flaherty, you always love him against righties. Now, Colorado did do a pretty decent job of stacking up lefties at the top of this lineup, and Flaherty is really awesome against righties. He's not as awesome versus lefties, so not a overly favorable matchup for him, but I still think it's a fine spot nonetheless. Still get the pitcher spot, of course, which we've been mentioning more and more in the National League parks. So, yeah, nothing bad to say about Flaherty. I think this is good chalk, like I said.
Yep. All right. Let's keep moving on to the other pitchers here. We've talked about some of the main guys ownership wise, it looks like. Actually, let me just make sure that I got everybody. Yes, I guess who else are you getting here? Actually, Zach Greinke is picking up enough ownership where he's probably worth his own conversation. He hasn't looked great so far as an Astro overall. I mean, he's fine. He's always Zach Greinke, but not really doing the turnaround that some people hope for out of him. He's getting 3.3 implied runs against the Angels, though, and that's a pretty low total. The Angels, though, still don't strike out a bunch. It's 20% K rate on the year versus right-hand pitching, which is significantly under league average. I didn't get to much Greinke. I think I got a little bit just to differentiate, but he doesn't project terribly well. The price looks nice, but I don't know if I see the strikeout upside here against the Angels. How are you feeling about Greinke at a reasonable price, but maybe not the highest upside?
Yeah, when I first saw the price, I was like, man, am I going to play Greinke here against the Angels? And, I was thinking about it, but looking at this lineup, you take out Rengifo and put in Andrelton Simmons. He's a guy who I think he had around a 10% K rate these last few seasons, right versus righties versus lefties. Just doesn't strike out all that much. So you're seeing more of a Angels lineup that we saw earlier in the season that was striking out at like a 16% rate or something ridiculous. So just super tough K matchup here for Greinke, even though he is a big favorite, even though it is one of the lower totals on the slate. Just going with the projection here, and he's getting squeezed out by guys like Velasquez, Flaherty, Barrios, all these guys within about $1,000 of him.
Yeah, so you mentioned Simmons. He has a 9% K rate versus right-hand pitching going back to the beginning of last season. The same lineup, David Fletcher, at only an 11% K rate. Albert Pujols, kind of surprising to me, only a 13% K rate versus right-hand pitching going back to last year. And you have a couple big strikeout guys who are now at the bottom of the order there with Matt Tice and Anthony Bemboon, who both guys are not really going to be, or they don't have a large sample size. They're also not going to be too relevant. But they are guys who have some strikeouts. But yeah, I think overall there are enough guys here who should be able to kind of drive up that pitch count, make it a little bit tougher on Greinke. And his strikeout stuff isn't that great either with a 23.3% K rate for him. So it's hard for me to get there too much. But I think if you're with the field, 20% ownership, that seems pretty reasonable if you're putting in a bunch of entries.
Yeah, 100%. I just didn't find the need to get there. Maybe he projects better in other projection systems. So I don't think Greinke's a bad player or anything, or you can't play him. But for me, it's not the night for him.
So here's one guy I'm getting, let me look at his projection because I don't know if this is actually a weird one, but it's one that I was kind of surprised by. I'm a little bit above the field on Mike Foltynewicz, and I don't love going with Mike Foltynewicz, I guess would be the first part of that. But I also don't like going with teams or with players rather against the Mets because they just have enough power hitters in there each time where I feel like it's always a risk going against the Mets, even though you can't have good results. Alonso in there has just been raking versus both sides of the plate over a 309 ISO versus right-hand pitching on the year. Conforto as well has pretty nice power. And JD Davis is kind of rounded into form. So I don't love this spot, but I'm there and I'm just slightly above the field on Foltynewicz, who projects for 13% ownership on DK. How are you feeling about Foltynewicz here in a spot where it seems like he's improving as the year has gone on, even though he started the year really cold?
3 straight decent starts here for Folty. I'm kind of in the same boat as you where I don't love that I'm playing a bunch of this guy. Like, we don't have a big sample of him. Like, we have a pretty decent sample of him not being great this season. And the Mets are obviously red hot trying to fight for a playoff spot. They seem to just pull victories out of nowhere these days. And so you're getting a 7K price tag on a guy with good stuff. He's got a really good fastball, and a lowish implied total going against him here for, let's see, what does Alex have? 4.5 implied runs. That's not too bad for a pitcher with a 7 total. And I thought he would be chalkier, so I was kind of down on him earlier today. But, teens ownership, I think I'm going to have probably double the field on Folty right now.
Yeah, I'm just so we have him at 13% right now, and obviously that can go up a little bit as we go, but I'm just at 15%, and I feel like that's pretty much with the field, but slightly above it. I think that's where I want to be. I know that I want to get to 25% with him because I'm heavy on Vince Velasquez today, and I'm heavy on Jack Flaherty, and those are 2 guys I actually do feel like I have some trust for, whereas Folty, I simply just don't. Even though he has to look like he's turned it around a bit, I just think it's hard to trust him at super big volume. But I think, you're right, 25% seems like a pretty reasonable cap. Anything more than that, I feel like would be pushing what you're hoping for from Folty.
Yeah, the problem is that all these guys in this range project as similar values. So when that's the case, I just go to where the ownership's leading me. But I think the ownership, from what I see, looks pretty efficient compared to our projections. So I don't know that it's necessary to take any massive stands at pitching tonight.
Yeah, I would agree there. But I guess speaking of taking massive stands, no, these aren't really massive stands, but they are guys who I feel like I'm going to have some of today that are maybe a bit weird. I'm just going to throw them out to you one by one and see what you think about them, or maybe you can counterpoint with one of your own. So I have 15% Mitch Keller today, and he's a guy who I did like recently on a slate where he did have a really nice day relative to the slate itself. Still only had 18 points, but that made him the top scoring pitcher. I think it was early last week, and that was just a terrible slate with terrible pitching. But Keller, so he's just been kind of unlucky, kind of similar to Ross Detweiler, where the sample size doesn't seem like it should be as bad as it's going to be, or as it has been, rather. He's got a 2 whip and a 351 batting average allowed on the year, faced 105 batters. But he has had a 23% strikeout rate and only given up a 2.9% on run rate, which is just about league average as well, and a 194 ISO. So he's been a bit unlucky there versus right-hand pitching in particular. But I think he's in a decent spot here against Cincinnati. That team total has come down. You have a couple hitters that you're worried about who have pretty good power. I mean, your boy Eugenio Suarez always has it. Aquino has kind of maintained his hot streak, at least from a power perspective. And then you have some other guys too. Derek Dietrich down on the bottom of the order, who's been kind of in and out that Cincinnati lineup. He looks pretty good. And the park as well is not a bad hitting park, but it's a cooler day there. So I think Keller at his price tag and projections, I don't mind him today. How are you feeling about Mitch Keller?
I like the call. You said you had 15%?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm closer to 20 right now on Keller. This is a guy who is a talented prospect. He's been talked about on all 4 of our shows today, including this one. 6,600 for a guy that he's just one of the guys that's not getting as much ownership, and I don't really quite understand why. $6,600 pitcher that we've seen have good games. He's a home favorite in a park that is not great for power, and single digits in ownership right now. So I think there's a lot to like here for Keller. And assuming he stays under 10, I'm going to have probably 20. So similar to Fulte right here.
Yeah, I think he's just, a guy who's not as bad as it may seem if you just look at the numbers from this major league sample size. And I think we do have a tendency, maybe not us as much, but people out there who are playing players do tend to fixate on some of these guys a little bit too much in what they've done recently. And one guy in particular who I feel like people are going to fixate on, which I think we should talk about, even though I don't think he's a play, but he is somebody who is going to be targeted against for the stacks today. Justice Sheffield. He had some real control issues in the majors. Hasn't really faced a ton of guys in the majors overall, but when he has faced them, he's been getting shelled, given up a 2 whip as well as a 334 ISO overall. Only faced 28 batters though over the last year and change. So how are you feeling about Justice Sheffield here? I don't want to roster him, but he's a guy too who just jumps out to me where apparently he's been down in the minors. His strikeout rate is up to 9.8 Ks per 9, and apparently he's gotten some of the control stuff hammered out, so that's why he's back up. He is still theoretically a top prospect. Is he a guy you would have any of, or is he a guy that you just think maybe isn't as bad as it seems, like I do?
When it comes to guys like this, I don't know if he's not stretched out or what, but honestly, he's just not on my radar very much at all. He's going to see a lot of righties near the top of this order, and decent righties at that. You got Guerrero and Grichuk smoking it from the right side. Bo Bichette, who's just the GOAT apparently, just gets hits off everyone, home runs. He steals bases, does all that. But I just, when it's guys like this that are coming up for their first start, I just rely on the projections. And right now we have him as a pretty poor value, which is kind of hard to do when you're 5,700. So I'm avoiding him tonight.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I just, when I see this much ownership for Toronto, it just makes me think maybe I should have some justice just because of that. It didn't occur for me because you're right. He does project really poorly. He does project at less than the 2x value despite that low price. That's not the best sign for him. But I just find it hard to believe he's quite as bad as we've seen. And there were enough reports out there from, I was reading Mariners blog today. I don't know why. I really went down a Justice Sheffield rabbit hole where I'm like, what is up with this dude? And Mariners people are really enthusiastic, it seems like, the fans at least, about getting him back in there and hoping that he can turn things around, because 14% barrel ball rate out of the 14 batters he's faced this year, that's a pretty high number, and one that I would assume he just can't keep up forever. And people seem to think that with how they're rostering Toronto.
Yeah, I don't think Toronto's that great of a stack either. If this guy's not going to stay in for, I just hate going up against fresh arms all the time, especially when Toronto's not a great team. They've got some good hitters and they're cheap, so I get it. They're going to grade out as good point per dollar values, but I'm kind of hoping this one stays pretty quiet outside of maybe some Bo Bichette.
Yeah, and it's a park downgrade for Toronto too. And obviously we talk more about the hitters in the back half of the show, but according to the top stacks tool, they are projected for more than double the ownership than their chances of being a top stack. So that is not a good spot to go to Toronto today. And even though we don't project Justice Sheffield for that well, that is one pause for concern there if you are going with heavy on Toronto today. Also, guys, hit that like button, please, because we're going to talk about some crappy pitchers now. And the only way these crappy pitchers will possibly succeed is if you guys hit that like button. Apparently, whoever's running the Osmo account is trying to get us to 400 likes today. Good fucking luck. but hey, if we can do that, that would be fantastic. I'm going on vacation next week. So, guys, let's hit that like button because I got to make up for a week of no likes. But Jake, how about the cheap pitchers here? How about Peter Lambert, who is getting a big park upgrade? I'm trying not to laugh saying this because he sucks and I don't think he's good, but I am playing him because he's super cheap and I don't think St. Louis is that good. And as we talked about the park with Jack Flaherty, is a park that's cold today. It's not as humid and hot as it is normally in this part of the summer, and it's generally going to help out pitchers. So I don't hate Peter Lambert at 3% ownership, and I am at 10% with him.
Yeah, so it's just an ownership play. Unlike Sheffield, he doesn't grade out as a terrible value, and as we'll talk about in the second half of the show, once we do dog picks and all that, he's actually not a bad value at all. I think he jumped up, or maybe I missed him early, but he's almost at the 2x threshold right now in Alex's projections. So I'm not going crazy with Lambert. If he sticks in the 3 to 5% range, I'd be fine having 10%. Like I said, expensive stacks to pay up for. That's really all you're looking for. And just a guy that's stretched out. He can be, if he is okay, he's easily going to pay off this price tag.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really not aggressive projection for him at all, and I think he does open up some things bat wise. Like I mentioned, I like Houston quite a bit, and to get to Houston, you are going to be spending big money today. So I think, or a lot of these stacks as well, just a lot of stacks that have guys over 5K, and Peter Lambert opens a lot of that up while not totally crippling you pitching wise. So I wouldn't load up for sure on him, but I do think he's worth a little bit of exposure despite the 5 implied runs against him, which admittedly not the best. Who else are you getting, Jake? I'm getting Trent Thornton too, if he's a guy you're getting, but very little. So anybody else, Trent Thornton or anyone that you're getting who's kind of weird?
Yeah, I'm getting a bunch of jokers around here. No Essie, he's not a joker. I think he's getting some ownership. So I don't mind that. Still not taking a big stand on him like I'm not with anyone. I guess the biggest stand technically that I'm taking on anyone is Jose Suarez. Were you crunching today? Did you use Cruncher?
Yes, so I did, and I got one Suarez lineup, but that's mostly because I am incredibly over the field on Houston.
Yeah, so this is one of those, like you look at the game logs and it is ugly, and you look at the matchup and it is ugly, but this is one of those where you just hope baseball does baseball things, and he's completely unowned, even more so than Lambert. Like no one's playing this guy, but we have an okay projection on him. I wish Houston was chalkier to kind of make me feel better about this play, because at least you would get some reverse correlation, but they're so expensive. It is just a price play for a 5K pitcher. That is all it is. It's a guy you pair with DeGrom or Lynn or Barrios to try to just jam in expensive bats elsewhere. I have 10% right now. I don't even want that much, but I didn't know if you saw anything with him, because I don't see anything redeeming about him despite getting him in 10% of lineups.
So here's what's redeeming. There's no Yordan Alvarez in the lineup. I think that's one thing which we can say is a positive, which I talked to Josh before we came on the air. I did a bunch of Houston lineups, as I mentioned, got no Yordan Alvarez, and I was like, why am I not getting Yordan Alvarez? Like, what is going on with the projections? And then it's like, oh, he's not in the lineup. I don't get why he's not in the lineup. I think with Houston, though, maybe the one thing you could say for Suarez is he's been so egregiously bad versus righties that maybe he's due to just not be that bad. He's faced 180 righties. He's had a 2.1 whip and a 7.6 xFIP, as well as a 352 batting average allowed, and an unlucky 380 BABIP, so that's pretty high. But giving up a 278 ISO, like the righty numbers are pretty crazy. So maybe they're just due to normalize a bit, because I don't think he's supposed to be this bad of a pitcher. But yeah, besides that, just like the idea of him maybe not being quite that bad. And the projections too, he's 4,900 and he projects for more than 2x value. So I get it. But yeah, like I just think he's going to get rocked today. I find it hard to believe he's not going to get rocked. He's had like 4 out of his last 5 games in the negatives, I think.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see. There's guys you don't expect to see when you start crunching stuff out. And it's not like I have a huge weight on ownership or anything like that. It's a 13-game slate. I don't think you need to get that different. So I looked at it to see if I was making a mistake. And then I finally looked at his projection, and it's pretty favorable. And the ownership is obviously amazing if you think that this guy could get you 12, 15 fantasy points, or at least realistically could get there. And right now it looks like we do. So I'm riding with it. I will not get hopefully more than 10% of him though.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. And we are now past the halfway point of the show. Let's do dong picks, and we can circle back on pitching real fast just to make sure that we covered everybody adequately. Just want to make sure we get this out of the way. So let me just pull up the sheet here. I think you got one yesterday, and maybe Josh got one too. I think.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I feel like I remember that being emotionally crippling to me at some point. Oh yeah, we already updated it. Actually, I updated it last night. That's right. I was super productive and did an update. So that's I was wondering what happened there. But yeah, Josh got Austin Meadows yesterday. You got Yohan Moncada, and his returns to the lineup. So that was a good call by you. Chris Randone's hot streak unfortunately came to an end with Hunter Pence yesterday. He did not get there, but I was one of my guys too, so I don't feel that bad about that. But on the year, EMAC now at 28. Jake at 28 as well. These guys have the same amount of total dongs, same amount of correct picks. And Jake, right now, you have the tiebreaker because you have a better pick rate, and also you have more double dongs. And EMAC has 1 double dong and 1 triple dong. you have 3 double dongs. So I think that would make you the current winner, the current leader in the clubhouse at least. I'm still not going to let you pick first though, because go to hell, Jake.
I got a few loaded up here, so whatever you don't want.
I'm going to go with George Springer and the leadoff spot going against Jose Suarez.
Oh, wow. Well, that's going to be awkward when Suarez gets 25 on DraftKings, but no,
it's going to be a real bump. At least you'll be doing well. That'll make me happy. Like, I don't mind. Unlike when Josh does well going against me, I'm okay with you doing well against me because we're in a team on this.
Oh, wow. Thanks. I appreciate it. We're co-winners. I mean, we are defending co-champions, right? So we got to stick together. All right. I'll take Nelson Cruz against Verhagen here.
Ooh, okay. Nelson Cruz and Chris Randone's pick is in. Seeing if he can get back on his hot streak. He's going with Rhys Hoskins, another guy I like quite a bit.
That is not a bad pick, although he's been poor. So
yeah,
not Randone. Randone's been excellent at picking. Hoskins, like these guys on cold streaks. I don't know. Randone's been awesome at predicting guys that have been in slumps and in not great matchups. So can't really go against him here.
Yeah, Rhys Hoskins definitely in a power shortage. I think he hasn't hit a home run in like 3 weeks now. But yeah, if this is the spot, I mean, you got to pick it up with no Bryce Harper in there. He is on paternity leave, by the way, if you are playing your Philly stacks. Keep that in mind. He's having a baby himself. He's actually birthing it himself. They're pulling it out of his eardrum, I believe. So they're going to do that. Also, the picks are in. Josh is apparently going to pick Nelson Cruz, and he's bummed that you got him. EMAC is picking Dan Vogelbach, and Josh is picking Hunter Renfroe.
Okay. Wow. So he's picking – so 2 of EMAC's guys. There we go. I thought EMAC was going to take Renfroe, but Josh had to swoop in there, take the second EMAC guy, I guess. Vogelbach. All right, Vogelbach versus Thornton. That makes sense. Vogelbach was EMAC Spotlight Hitters featured image guy I saw this morning. So
I don't see the Renfroe pick. I know, not to question Josh. He does have a 304 ISO, but like Eduardo Rodriguez has done a pretty good job limiting power, 141 ISO on the year. And it is a park that's going to theoretically help out the pitcher a little bit. So I'm surprised by that pick by Josh. I feel like he usually takes like positive park factor guys.
Yeah, he usually does. But 13 game slate, you got to get weird, right?
Yeah, I guess so. So Josh getting weird with it. So there we go. Those are the picks. And obviously go play them all in one lineup and then pray. Because there are some days where that would have paid off. I mean, obviously the Tom Murphy day, even if you just got him in there with Chris Randone, the day where we both had double dongs that he and I had Freddie Freeman. I guess you couldn't play him and Rizzo together. Well, on FanDuel you could have. Yeah, just play all the dong picks. Put one lineup together.
And fantasy draft you can.
Oh, that's right. Good point. Yeah, fantasy draft, of course. The home of rake-free daily fantasy. Jake, did you know that?
I've heard, man.
It's the buzz on the street. Go to FantasyDraft.com. Use that promo code AWESEMO for your first 7-day trial there. $1,000 in rake-free entries. So that's a big get for you if you go to FantasyDraft.com. All right, let's close the loop on the pitchers real fast. Jake, anybody else you're getting at pitcher who's worth talking about that you feel like maybe the people may want to get some of?
Let's see. Usually like 5% is my cutoff of guys that I'll mention. I don't think that so I got a couple shares of each of Desclafani, Thornton, Lyles, Paddock, 1 share of Plesac, a few of Dylan Cease, guys that I would be fine if I had 0% of. I got 4% of Greinke. I didn't realize, but not going to get any of these guys with any sort of regularity. Anyone else you wanted to mention?
No, I mean, just Thornton's a guy that I got 1 of, and that's not really a great play because Seattle's actually been hitting pretty well. And really, if here's a time to go with Trent Thornton against Seattle, it's probably not when they're hitting well, but he's a player who is in the player pool and he's relatively cheap. So I think those are the main things going for him. But yeah, that closes out my exposure because that's really not anything that exciting. Yeah, let's talk about the hitting because I think the hitting here is the important part. I actually want to make sure I have the most updated Top Stacks tool so I could reference everything on there. And actually, the Top Stacks tool, I believe it's free today, right, Jake?
It is free. I'll post the link in chat here in just a second.
Yeah, so guys, go check out the Top Stacks tool. Again, this is really one of the better tools we have because it helps you shorten your process in a really appreciable way. Jake and I talk about it a lot. Adam also, obviously a very, very smart guy, uses the Top Stacks tool as kind of a frame of reference for himself. And it's a really easy way to kind of just tell what's the efficient stacks to go to and where the leverage is and all that. And I guess, Jake, how do you use the Top Stacks tool when you're kind of considering your lineups and putting everything together?
Yeah, so I just put together my own little Excel sheet and just paste the stuff. You can just paste it straight there. You can download it in a CSV, whatever, put it straight to Excel. And just, first of all, just subtract team's ownership share from their top stack percentage site to site, and just see get an idea of why teams are being owned like they are, and if it makes sense to fade them or if they are being owned fairly. So like one team that sticks out on DraftKings especially would be Toronto. They've got 4.7 top stack percentage. That's solid on a 13 game slate. Like that's above average, but you look at their ownership share and they're at 10.8%. And you say, well, why is that? And that's because they have one of the highest top value percentages. So it does make sense. It's always tricky when you're playing teams like this, but on a 13 game slate, I'm more likely to at least fade that team in full stack form. So 4 or 5 man stacks based on the way I filter out lineups, and have them as like fillers while a lot of other people are stacking them up just because they'll pop in optimizers. So like the ones at the bottom that are the most overvalued stacks are often what we call optimizer plays, while the ones that are getting under-owned are usually expensive teams that are hard to fit in. So we call those the anti-optimizer plays.
Yeah, that's a very smart way to look at it. And I think, I what you mentioned about just subtracting it, I do that on my own on the Excel sheet. I have like a little tool to compare the various hitting components and the teams and their numbers and all that. And you just do a little subtraction thing, color coded on Excel. It's very simple. So go check it out right now. Jake dropped the link in the YouTube chat, but of course, also you can get that every single day with the promo code live before lock at osmo.com/join. If you go to osmo.com/join right now and use that promo code live before lock, you'll get half off your first month of Osmo Plus. Get that top stacks tool for every slate. I think a lot of people out there, you're coming home from work, you don't want to do your full prep. I mean, maybe you watch the shows and have it on in the background and do some research. The top stacks tool is one thing where you can identify some weaknesses right away and get to it. It's definitely one of the more valuable things with an Osmo Plus membership. But let's talk about the team, Jake, who's going to be the highest. Actually, now they're not the highest on the top stack tool, but they have the best chance of being a top stack. Tampa Bay. They're going against was Black, if Ty Black, I think, yeah, Ty Black. His name is not relevant to me at all, but he is not a good pitcher. Also a guy, though, who's not giving up a ton of power, just the 132 ISO, but Tampa Bay is getting a pretty high implied total here, 6 implied runs. And on the year, Black has been looking really bad. A limited sample size this year, but a 2.3 whip and a 366 batting average and a 7.1% swinging strike rate and 52% hard contact and the 16% carry. I'm just going to list all the terrible numbers here that jump out when you look at Ty Black. So how are you feeling about Tampa Bay here? Because they actually are going to be really highly owned. They still have a better chance of being a top stack relative to their ownership.
Yeah, I think they're being fairly owned, great value, high ownership, but not crazily overvalued. So a team like that, compared to like a team like Toronto, I'm okay playing a ton of. And it looks like right now they're going to be either my top or my second stack. So they're going to be way up there for total exposures for me. I basically like everyone in this lineup in some form or fashion, whether it's ownership, position eligibility, or whatever it is projection wise. Like you've got the high projection guys like Pham, Jesus Aguilar, Willie Adames in the 5 spot at 3,900. So they're not like the biggest name hitters, but I think they are the highest implied total on the slate right now. 6.5 Alex has them at. And you can find those totals on the MLB Osmo lineups page. But yeah, they're fantastic. They're, like I said, top 2 stack for me. I don't really see a way around it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I got there too. They project extremely well, but the ownership here is just so high where I did try to kind of get some minis in there. Like you mentioned that approach. I'm trying to get some minis in there, tried to maybe avoid some Matt Duffy if I could. I still have a good amount of him, but I think that's one way you could maybe differentiate because he really doesn't have good power. He is cheap at the top of the lineup there, but if you're not getting to him, stack becomes a lot less owned, it looks like. So I would be okay getting away from Matt Duffy, even though he's a very obvious value and not a terrible player. He just has a .066 ISO going against left-hand pitching, which is obviously not a great number. I think if you're getting a guy with no powers in the leadoff spot, like maybe he'll produce some runs, maybe he has value. But I think if you get away from him and get another power bat in there, go to Brousseau, maybe that's one move I made. I think that's a differentiation there. How are you approaching Tampa Bay to try to differentiate with all the chalk?
Yeah, so right now my exposures for them, it's pretty even across the board. But what I like to do is just get overweight, significantly overweight on some of the guys that are low owned in the stack. So whether it's lefty-lefty matchups that people are avoiding, which people do way too often when you're stacking a team, you can worry less about platoon split because you're probably going to see different pitchers throughout the game. So like Austin Meadows, if he's going to be single-digit ownership on a team with a massive total here, even though it's lefty-lefty, he's a good hitter. It's not like he can't get hits off lefties. It's not like he can't generate runs if he gets a walk or something and help you get points in a stack. And then he's probably going to face a righty at some point during the game, batting, assuming they knock Ty Block around. So love getting overweight on Austin Meadows. And then you mentioned Brosseau as well. Play him at second, play him at third base over Duffy, who's like the optimizer play. I think Brosseau batting, a few spots down in the order, I think makes for an excellent pivot at third base, or in addition to Matt Duffy at a quarter of the ownership.
Yeah, I think that's just one play that jumped out to me as part of it. And getting to Mike Zunino too, obviously has a good amount of power, even though he hasn't shown it that much this year. Still theoretically a good hitter versus left-hand pitching who should be able to have some home run power. And hitting a catcher in a 5-man stack is never a bad move either. So yeah, at a $3,300 price on DK, I don't hate that move either. But yeah, I think there are some ways to avoid the chalky parts of Tampa Bay, but they are going to be top owned. But again, despite that, they still look like they have a pretty good chance of being the top stack, and it's not too onerous. So that's the kind of a spot where you want to be. One team who does it's a bit onerous for ownership wise is Minnesota. They have a 9.5% chance of being a top stack, but 12.1% ownership on DraftKings. So that makes a pretty big differential. One of the larger ones on the slate. How are you feeling about Minnesota here? So Drew Verhagen, I know you mentioned Nelson Cruz. He's your home run pick. Obviously, you can't ever fault picking him in anything for power. But Drew Verhagen has limited power pretty well. He's not a great pitcher, but going back to last year, he's had just a 162 ISO allowed. Giving up only a 153 ISO as well as a 1.1 whip, so right-handed batter. So he's been decent, and Minnesota also not that hot today and not a great power park. So is there any reason at all you would come under the field on Minnesota?
No, that's my other top 2 stack.
Okay.
So you're nailing them all right now. Yeah, Minnesota against Verhagen. It's another one like Tampa where, and this is different to Toronto. I don't think Toronto's a bad stack. I want to make that clear. I think they're a fine stack. There's a reason that they're getting a lot of ownership. I think it's just a little bit harder to get unique lineups playing a team full stacking a team like Toronto. Whereas with Minnesota, you've got all of Sano, Cave, Cruz, and Arias all under 10% ownership. So it's pretty likely you're going to have at least 1 or 2 low-owned guys in your Minnesota stack. They've got a great total. Verhagen, so did you sort those numbers by him being a starter only? Because he's throwing out of the bullpen earlier this season.
Okay. Yeah, they're just overall numbers. So no, I have I pull everything.
So yeah, I mean, maybe he's going to limit power, but you're seeing a huge total here for the Twins and just a lot of good hitters throughout the order. Platoon split for the catcher at 3,600. Castro, the guy I like to play against righties. I think the stack just sets up very, very, very nicely.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I mean, look, I think you're going to have that's a very popular opinion to have today because it is the highest implied total on the slate going against Verhagen. But I just think maybe he's not quite as bad as it seems, and the power being a little bit limited there. And just 70-degree weather in Minnesota. I mean, you can speak to that. It's not the hottest day in Minnesota today, so that does kind of
really nice. Yeah, nice here.
So yeah, it's not not a perfect spot, but I think it is one that obviously it's hard to avoid with that high implied total. But I just got there a little bit less, and I did go to some more one-offs and stuff. And obviously Nelson Cruz is a one-off, never a bad play, but he is now priced, I mean, deservedly so, almost $6K on DraftKings, which is a tough price to pay, but you are getting a lot of power for that. So you're paying up, but you're paying a premium for a guy who's been just raking on the air.
Yeah, I love Nelson Cruz tonight. If you can't tell,
you are bringing some EMAC love to the Nelson Cruz game today.
That's right.
Who is going to be your number? Well, let's just talk about my stack because the one that I like the most, I've talked about them in the first half of the show. Houston looks great to me today. Going against Suarez. I mean, we talked about the reasons why maybe Suarez could just not be as bad as it seems, but I think he is as bad as it seems. And he's been a pitcher I like stacking against quite often. I've had a lot of teams do well against him, which I think people maybe slept on how bad he's been in terms of just giving up a ton of production every stack. Pittsburgh went off against them in Anaheim, in Anaheim, even though they call themselves LA, it's Anaheim. So I like Houston a lot here, and I think people aren't going to be getting there as much because of those prices. And it looks like the ownership is backing that out. Yuli Gurriel not going to be owned at all. The other guys here, 10% ownership-ish, which is fine, I think, for a Houston stack with big potential. How are you feeling about them today?
I think Houston is a great stack. I'm not passing on them, but I'm getting to some other teams ahead of them as far as full stacks when I look through my lineups. So they're not like the main priority for me. I think Twins and Tampa is going to be the main priority for me tonight. But you mentioned against Suarez, so I talked about playing some Suarez. I'm still going to have a lot of Springer love the home run call there. They're just really, really expensive. And I think a lot of my lineups are going to have one of Barrios, Lynn, or DeGrom at the top, or Flaherty for that matter. And so it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to get in a bunch of Astros stacks because they are so expensive. But the anti-optimizer play, I mean, if you don't love all these top end pitchers, you should be getting a lot of Houston.
And there are some decent values there. I mean, Chirinos at 3,800 at catcher is not bad, and especially given the pop that he has, and a 207 ISO versus left-hand pitching as well. And Abraham Toro, I mean, he's not a highly touted prospect, I don't believe, but he's had a pretty good slugging percentage in AAA. I think it was over 200 this year in terms of isolated power. So it's not a bad spot for some of these value guys either. Josh Reddick either. I mean, the lefty spot versus Jose Suarez actually has been one spot that's been really good with a 1 whip and just the 186 batting average allowed as a 29, as well as a 29% K rate. He's faced a very nice 69 lefty batters on the year. But Reddick, I think, is a guy you can go to too for cheap who actually can hit lefties fairly well. So there are some ways to make Houston different and save some money there. But I think just paying up for the big guys there, maybe skipping Brantley, because I think that's a move that I did a little bit. That's probably a way to get there and maybe be able to afford it a little more reasonably. Who else are you getting, Jake? Because we got some other teams here who have decent totals, and the ones that we've talked about are really the main ones I've been looking at today. So who is going to be your number 4 stack?
I like Philadelphia quite a bit. You got to them too?
Yeah, I agree on that.
Yeah. So good pricing here. They're not like crazy cheap or in a super favorable hitting environment, but you're getting a little bit of leverage off of Noesi. He's going to be one of the more popular guys in this low tier, which I understand. But you've got a pretty good implied total here for Philadelphia. Alex has him at 5.4 right now in Miami. That just kind of goes to show you what he thinks of this matchup, and that's without Harper in the lineup. So you get Dickerson at a discount for 4,400. You're getting all these guys basically at discount prices because of the park, but I still think that they get to Noesi more often than not here, and their ownership is not out of whack, which I like to see.
Yeah, and then we talked about Noesi. I mean, people are going to be playing him today a little bit at least, but he's given up a 365 ISO in a limited sample size this year, which is obviously not a good number. Also given up a 1.5 whip and a 6.1 xFIP overall, which is not good. 19% K rate too, which is not the worst, but definitely not good. And 11% barrel ball rate. So I agree. I think Philly's got big potential here. I think this is a nice spot for Rhys Hoskins to maybe break out of his little slump. And you still have decent hitters in there. I mean, Cesar Hernandez up top, not a great power guy, but he is a switch hitter, so I think that'll give him a little bit of advantage here. And the Miami bullpen, too, behind Noesi is not going to be that good. And Rhys Hoskins, we talked about him. He's going to be a little bit chalky, but well-priced, and he does theoretically have a lot of power with a 261 ISO versus right-hand pitching going back to last year. Real Muto as well. Like, I like these guys. Dickerson, I don't mind him in the spot either. Obviously getting the lefty-righty matchup, which is good. Like, there's a lot of ways you can go here, and I really don't mind it, and I think it's just not owned. I mean, the top stack still has it being about the right amount owned, but I feel like it should still just be a bit higher given how bad Noesi has looked.
Yeah, I think they're fairly owned the last time I looked. So it's not like I looked at them in the top stack tool and it's like, wow, I got to get off Philadelphia like I might with some of these other teams. Yeah, they look good to me and fairly owned, which is a combo I like to see. And like, if you just look at their, top stack tool is free, so we can just talk real numbers here. Yeah. Top stack percentage is above average. Their top value percentage is above average for a team, for a 26 team slate. And then their ownership share, yeah, it's a little bit higher than what you want, but it's not even, let's see, what are they, the 4th or 5th most owned team? So all those factors, 4th most owned team lead me to believe that this is a quality stack that you should be playing in, at least in MME formats.
Yeah, tough park, but the situation looks good. So yeah, I think that all checks out for me, and I'm on the same page with you. Let's keep it moving. Let's talk about Milwaukee here, because Myron Kidd just saying in the chat, the Brew Crew is getting overlooked. And it does seem like ownership-wise, now that there is no Trent Grisham in the leadoff spot, he was going to be a very popular play, it looked like, because he's good value and he's been in the leadoff spot. But instead, it's Lorenzo Cain back in there hitting leadoff. Merrill Kelly's been not the best, especially against righties. He's given up a 218 ISO, but overall, he's just not an impressive pitcher going into Milwaukee, which is going to help out the power, especially for lefties. I like the spot for Milwaukee. I didn't land there organically a bunch. Like, I did force them in there because I think it's a nice spot for him. But projection-wise, I didn't quite get there too much. And it looks like people aren't either. And it does seem like there's one really obvious play in here that would differentiate, even if you do feel like it is a bit of a chalky stack. Castagneira is going to be completely unknown, despite the fact that he murders right-handed pitching. On the year, he's got a 313 ISO and a 166 WRC+. And again, Kelly's giving up more power to righties. So how are you feeling about Milwaukee here? And are you getting there as a full stack or mini stacks or what?
All right. I just refiltered. So give me 1 second here.
Sure.
Let's see where they weren't popping up for me like as a top 3 or 4 stack. Yeah. And still, they're really not. They're kind of spread out in their exposure. So Yelich, of course, my highest exposed. Brewer, love to see that. I think it's a fantastic matchup for Yelich, especially. And then they're also not going to be a real optimizer play with Hira at 5,500. That's going to be tough to stomach for a lot of people, even though he has been a good hitter. He's batting cleanup. And then these secondary pieces aren't expensive either, or aren't cheap either. So I like the idea of getting to a lot of Milwaukee here, but I'm just getting to other teams a little bit more. So having a little bit of FOMO on Milwaukee because I love stacking against Merrill Kelly. But ultimately not a team that I'm going to be heavily overweight on.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. And I think that's a fair approach. I think to me, the one thing is that they just looked so chalky earlier and now they're not. And they're just a good power team. I mean, a 196 ISO for them on the year versus right-hand pitching. They do strike out a bit, but they still just have good power. They're back home, which has been definitely a positive for them as well. And Kelly, just not a guy who's shown a lot. He's got a 9% barrel ball rate on the year. Also just a 19% K rate, so not a good strikeout pitcher. I think this is a decent spot for Milwaukee, and I think maybe more mini stacks than full stacks, but I think there is still some production to be tapped into here with Kelly, a guy who I just don't think is that good, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think Kelly's very good either. Definitely.
Who else are you getting, Jake? Because I think we've covered most of the high implied total teams, unless I'm missing somebody. I guess we should talk about Toronto more because they are going to be owned like they are a good team, even though the top stacks tool has them significantly over-owned compared to their chances of being a top stack. And again, we talked about the splits for Justice Sheffield so far in the majors. They haven't looked good, but I just don't believe he's that bad. The bullpen also not good behind him, but not that bad. So how are you feeling about Toronto? And I guess where are you going exposure-wise? Because they are going to be really owned as 5-man stacks.
Yeah, they're just going to be too heavily owned for me to want to make a major stand on them. So looking at them right now, if you look at the top stacks tool and you subtract their ownership share from their top stack percentage, they are the team on DraftKings, at least, that is the most overvalued, I would call that. Mm-hmm. They have a good top value percentage, so it's not like they're bad plays. I just think as a stack, they're going to be a little bit over-owned for me. I don't know exactly what to expect from Sheffield. He doesn't project well. And a lot of these Toronto bats do dollar for dollar, but I think a lot of the times people just overvalue point per dollar value in MLB DFS. And I think this is one of those plays that shows that. So good individual plays. I'd love to have them in one-offs and two-mans and all that. Like I have Bichette, I have Vlad Guerrero and Grichuk and Smoke and Hernandez sprinkled across my lineups. But scrolling through, I don't see many Toronto 5-man stacks.
Yeah, I agree. I just didn't get there too much either. And I do have some one-offs and all that, but didn't see the need to get there a bunch because really I think it's an over-owned situation. And there are some lower-owned guys in the bottom of the order. Biggio getting bumped down. I mean, he has been a decent power hitter overall, though not so much versus lefties. But I think it's a spot where if you wanted to get different and you really believe Justice Sheffield is bad, that's certainly a thing that you could do, but not the most exciting spot to me because that, as you mentioned, they're just really over-owned compared to their chances of being a top stack. So that's not where you want to be. Who is the weirdest stacker you're getting? Because I think we've covered the main ones. The main ones today seem particularly obvious. So is there anybody you're getting who is maybe a little bit weird or off the beaten path?
I don't know if St. Louis is weird, but they weren't sticking out to me when I was just looking at things earlier today, and they project okay. We don't think Lambert is great. I don't think me or you think Lambert's terrible. So I understand why I'm getting to St. Louis, but they're like a top 5 stack for me right now. I don't know. Were you getting to any St. Louis at all against Lambert? I'm guessing if you're playing a little bit of him, you're probably getting to the other side, right?
Yeah, so I got a little bit of St. Louis and I kind of willfully avoided getting too much because I just think Lambert, I mean, it's a really big park upgrade. I think he's not a good pitcher, but you really can't, I think, underrate, or you can underrate the idea that like he's just going from Coors to a really good pitching park that's also not warm. And we talk about all the positive factors there. And I think the fact he's given up so much isolated power, that's not going to be the same situation heading into St. Louis. He's not a great strikeout pitcher, so he's still not the most interesting. Just the 15% K rate. But if he's been pitching deep into games, even though he's getting shelled, he's pitching at least 5 innings per game. If he keeps the ball down and gets some ground balls, which he's actually done really well, a 29% fly ball rate on the year. So I think he's actually very much in play, and I don't see the value for a full stack. So I have some mini stacks in St. Louis, but I just didn't want to get there for the full because I think Lampert's going to have one of those like competent enough, but maybe not even worth playing days.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're probably right about that. I'm seeing multiple of their hitters being at like 20% exposure for me on DK, and that's just something I was not expecting. So it looks like the Twins maybe have dropped a little bit for me, but still getting to a bunch of their guys with regularity here. Did we get an ownership? Oh, we did get an ownership update. All right, let me put this in, and then let's
see if there's anything weird here. Let's check. Oh, 1 minute ago too. So that's fresh, hot off the presses right now. That's by the way what you get with your Osmo Plus membership. So go right now to osmo.com/join. Even if you don't have enough time to get everything done for this main slate, you are going to have enough time to get the night slate content. And our night slate content is the best in the business. Our senior management team, our founding team, has made a ton of money off the night slates. And that is because they approach it with a level of detail that you're not going to find on many other sites. A lot of people just treat that stuff as throwaways. And for these guys, it is not that at all. So go to osmo.com/join. Use that promo code live before lock to get in all the night slate content and also all the weekend content. Got a lot of slates this weekend coming up as well. Jake, anything hitting wise that you want to hit on? Because I think we've covered most of the guys that I like. Arizona, I have a faint bit of interest in because of the power that Lyles gives up, and also being in Milwaukee, which is a park upgrade for them, but didn't get there a bunch. Definitely not as much as I thought I would, but they're low owned. Are they a team you're going to have any of? Because the 4.4 implied run total for them is not that great.
I was not getting to much Arizona. I think it's probably an implied total thing against Lyles. Is the roof open in Milwaukee? Do we know this? Not that it really matters that much. I still don't think I'm getting to a lot of Arizona, but
I believe it is, at least according to the site that I pull stuff from.
I guess it doesn't really matter that much. It's 66 degrees, so
yeah,
it's not going to make a huge difference. But no, I wasn't really expecting to be on Arizona, and you've got Ketel Marte and Escobar above $5,400 a piece, so that makes it difficult when there's just better plays in that area that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they were just one that I like kind of stuck in my head that I thought might be worth playing, but I agree that I'm probably not going to get there too much. And I'm definitely not because my lineups are in. So yeah, I think it's an okay spot, but one that I think maybe underappreciated. Like maybe that's the reason why you do go to there. Because I do think Lyles gives up enough power, and like a guy like Peralta, like it wouldn't shock me to see him have like a double dong day just because he has big power, and Lyles certainly has no problems giving it up. Let's see. Anybody else we need to hit on here? Because I'm just trying to see. I guess, do you have any interest in San Diego going against Eduardo Rodriguez? Because if Josh is there, I feel like maybe you landed on there with somebody.
No, they're a team that is going over-owned as well. If you look at the top stack tool, and that's not what I don't put all my stock in the top stack tool. It is a really nice tool though to have at your disposal. The only guy I'm getting to, I guess, is kind of a strong word here. I got to 5 Machado shares on DK out of 150. So they're, hope they don't go off for my sake, but they are a pretty nice value, I think.
I actually did get some of him as well, and I didn't know why, but it makes me feel better that you are. I think he's probably a good one-off play at the positions and a dual position eligibility too. But yeah, I got some Machado too, and I was like, all right, sure. Like I don't think it's the best spot, but I'll take it.
He's someone you always kind of get to because he's a good hitter, but he's in a bad park or not a great park. So he's priced down. Like DK has that in their algorithm. So a lot of the times he's priced a little bit lower than he should be compared to the rest of his teammates.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, he's in a lineup I got with, which also includes a one-man Luis Guillorme at shortstop. So I don't know what happened with this 5-1-1 stack, but it's one that's happening for me, I guess, today.
Guillorme, nice.
Yeah, Chris Randone would be happy with that.
Yeah, he would.
A Dong pick alumni for Chris Randone. All right, Makad asking for the Paul Blackburn of the night, which we have not gotten in a while. And of course, Makad is our honorary producer of the show who gives us the best alerts whenever our ownership is being updated. So Jake, who would be your Paul Blackburn of the night? Of course, the award that goes to the worst, cheapest pitcher who could somehow find his way into a tournament-winning lineup.
I guess I'm just going to close my eyes and say, let me make sure I got to some of this guy. I was going to say Suarez, but let me make sure I got to this scrub.
Hunter Pence
Wow.
scratched.
Hunter Pence scratched. Oh, wow. I don't think I'm playing Texas anyways. Thanks, though. Voice of God, Josh.
That was helpful, though.
Damn right, voice of God.
Oh, God. I didn't get to Suarez really at all on DK now. I'll say Peter Lambert.
Yep. There we go. It's the big dog, Peter Lambert, coming through. Yeah, I mean, I talked about the outcome that I think I could see for him, where he just gets a bunch of ground balls, has some efficient innings. And he's like, the fact that he's pitched 5.1 innings per start per appearance blew my mind. Like, because he's really not good, and he's gotten rocked a bunch of times, but he just hangs in there. Now he's not in cores, so maybe that 5 innings could become 6 or 7. Who knows? So yeah, I don't think Lambert's a terrible play, and he would be my Paul Blackburn pick. I hope he goes off today. Like, I didn't play enough of him where it would help me materially, but I would feel good about this show if Peter Lambert went off today.
Yeah. I would. I mean, I'm 4x the field right now on DK, so get to 13% of him. Yikes.
That's more than enough, though. Like, I feel like if you're 4x the field on him, but it's still not crazy. Like 10% Lambert, you're fine. Who's hurt by that? Nobody.
Yeah, except 10% of my lineups.
Lambert looks like a 12-year-old. Nitram99 is saying in the chat. Lambert has an extreme pitchers up and 3 lefties. Lucenzo UN is saying in the YouTube chat. So there we go. I'll take that.
Wow, I got to more Mitch Keller too than I imagined. 26% on DK. Less Barrios. Wow. More DeGrom. Okay. So not wild, but
also, who else looked like a 12-year-old was a major league pitcher? The Rookie of the Year in the movie Rookie of the Year. So
that can confirm. Yeah.
So that worked out well once. So maybe he probably had some really good fantasy days.
I'm guessing he did. He threw like 115, didn't he?
Yeah, and he was getting strikeouts left and right and pitching deep into games, even though he had a tendon issue. They were really reckless with that child's arm.
Yeah, it seems unsafe. Tommy John definitely was in his future.
He was. Could you think, like, if that actually happened in real life, I'm sure there'd be a gigantic controvery.
Oh, for sure.
Why is this child pitching it? Why is this child being worked to death in 100-degree heat? We are locked now, by the way. So there we go. So hopefully you got your Peter Lambert shares and your whatever the character from Rookie of the Year shares are in. Because he's a hell of a play today. If you can guess, I don't even remember his name. I feel like it's Joel something.
I can't remember his name. I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, I think I need to know. Henry Rowan Gardner. There
you go. I knew it was like there was like a super long last name because it barely fit on his jersey.
I remembered him being the guy who ended up in American Pie as well as one of the. I think he was the guy dating Tara Reid in American Pie. I remembered that, but I just couldn't remember his name. I knew it was like an old guy name, like Joel was what came to mind. Henry is right there.
It was Kevin in American Pie, by the way.
There you go. Okay. So you just know all the Thomas Ian, Shane, or whatever movie roles. Thank you, Voice of God. All right, guys, we're locked. So right now, use that promo code Live Before Lock for half off your first month of Osmo Plus. Of course, get all that night slate content we talked about earlier. And you can just use the Top Stacks tool if you want right now. That is free today, but if you want to use it every single day, the only way to do that is with the promo code Live Before Lock for half off your first month of Osmo Plus. Alex Caldwell asking, how many White Claws have you had today? I've had none, Alec. I am, in fact, White Claw sober for one day, if nothing else. So good for me.
There you go.
And also, thank you to FantasyDraft. Of course, it is the home of rake-free daily fantasy. If you go there right now with the promo code OSMO, you'll get a free 7-day trial as well as $1,000 in rake-free entries. And FantasyDraft is the only daily fantasy sports site that is going to give you completely rake-free DFS. So go support the show, go support them, go support yourself, support your bankroll, because that's really what matters. And to go into FantasyDraft.com with that promo code OSMO, it's the only way to do that and to get that rake-free daily fantasy into your life in a way it's going to help you out. We promise. Jake, what is your schedule coming up? Any plugs? What's in your world, buddy?
Let's see. Tomorrow, strategy show in the morning, and then I think you're on at night with EMAC, right?
I am.
So we'll each take a turn on a show with EMAC, and I'll have cheat sheets out for tomorrow per usual. I don't think we're gonna have any sort of substantial early slate, so it'll be focused on the main slate. Yeah. And then I guess I won't see you for a while, huh?
Yeah, no, I'll be out next week, but I am doing one farewell show, as Jake mentioned, with my old pal Emax tomorrow, which is always a fun way for me to cap off a Saturday. So yeah, that'll be my Bon Voyage show. So go check us out in the channel before I go disappear for a week and go have a life outside of daily fantasy sports, which is scary, Jake. I know it's terrifying outside of the world of DFS.
I'm getting anxious for you right now.
All that air I'm going to be breathing and sunlight, it's going to be terrifying. I'm getting so much vitamin D, my body's not going to know what to do with itself. But hey, we are here for you guys all weekend long. So subscribe and hit that notification bell. Check out all the content. Check out Jake and Emac tomorrow. Check out me and Emac in the afternoon. Check out Josh and Emac, I believe, on Sunday. But got a lot of content coming up for you guys. So we're here for you whenever. We hope we did a good job for you today, and we will see you guys again soon. Enjoy your weekends. Good luck, guys.